Was that Emma? Was that Lee Duffy's favourite song about our house?
Yeah, Carol's Lee's long-term partner and the mother of his kids.
Oh,
Pete and Sammy Joe and Michelle's mum. I was with Lee for a number of years.
Wow.
I'm the one with all the secrets.
Carol, I'm gonna have to get you on the podcast in the new year.
You won't.
I'd love to hear all about Lee.
Carol will not do it.
Do you know what it is? I love popping on Emma's, and it's really the only one. The only other time I go on YouTube is to speak out against them arseholes who not mentioned, because they're not getting away with what they've done. And it could be 10 years' time, I'll still be speaking out. They robbed me of my privacy, me and my family. But I'm out now. They can't shut me up, can they, Emma?
Carol, is that who I'm thinking?
You know how we met, Steve?
Everyone needs to bury the hatchet now.
We met by accident. Me and Carol.
Oh, I shared Laurie Duffy's post on the Doyles, and Emma shared it, and that's how we met. I was watching the comments on that post, and she said, "Who are you?" And I went, "I'm Carol." Lee's, he called me his wife till he died. And nobody knew about Laurie's statement. And even friends of Lee's who were conned into cooperating with them books were told the family were on board, and it was a load of lies. And from that day forward, I've never shut my mouth because I'd had enough.
Do you know what? Something bad's going to happen to him in 2023.
Carol thought she was on her own for years and thought that it was only her. And I'm not being Carol's got the material in Lee's own words to write plenty of books, right?
And I was tortured by them people. I told them to leave my family members alone, and they wouldn't leave my family members alone. And in the end, I come out kicking and screaming.
I don't blame you. I mean, why would they pick on somebody that they know? If this was 5 years ago, he wouldn't be doing it 5 years ago, would he?
She was on my inbox for 7 hours abusing me because I'd had a conversation with Paddy Conroy the night before and the book had come up and made me feelings known, it's a load of shite, and I can't be bothered with these people. 7 hours she was on my inbox. And then, while that was happening, he was on his page whipping up support. And when people were asking my wife's getting her told. And when they were asking who she was getting told, nobody relevant to Lee Duffy's story. So I was like, okay. Yeah, horrible people, absolutely.
Disgusting,
her and a haughty attitude. I'd love to run into her in the street. She's a mouthy little cow behind the keyboard in a haughty attitude. I'm a legal solicitor or something like that. You work for the Citizen Advising on gas and electric, you silly cow. Talk about delusions of grandeur. Honest to God.
I tell you, that's absolutely disgusting the way that family's
got out
treated
to say
you,
to me that they'll pick the fucking phone up and come and see me because I can't be asked with them anymore.
She's straight as a die, but she thought she was on her own for all these years, didn't you, Carol?
Well, yeah, and they think I've been an easy target because I'm on my own. I'm a very strong woman and I don't take shit and I can see a plum from a mile away.
Yeah, it could be 2024 then.
And it was exactly the same behaviour as what we were going through. I couldn't believe it. And
Emma, it all gets dumped on you and Brian, right? All this trolling and all this gets dumped on Brian and Emma. They trolled me for ages before they even met you. Dale Brendan, I had the stories he told me. Make my straight hair curl. Them people are sick in the head, you know. And he's a narcissist. And he's got drug and alcohol problems. What's her excuse? She hasn't got a fucking excuse in the world. That obese piece of shit he calls his wife. She's not right in the head. She's not right in the head. She really thinks she's something. I'd love her to stand in front of me. I'm 7 stone wringing wet. I'd rip her to bits. Rip that woman to bits.
Well, I mean, if Lee was here now, Carol, are you even got that the wrong way?
No, he wouldn't. He's tortured him. He tortured him.
And to think that he's writing books on Carol's ex-partner and a mother of... Tell her what's going on. Do you know what I mean?
Telling me what's what with Lee? And I'm like, you are fucking having a laugh, aren't you? I'm just one of the many knockoffs. I'm like, listen, you start talking like that around my family, you're going to get yourself in serious trouble. And they wouldn't stop. And I told them to leave my youngest daughter alone. No, would they? No, no, no. Well, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. Every time I see their names on YouTube, Facebook, there I will be saying the truth of what they do. And he can leave the gangster genre behind and go on to football. I'll still follow them because I tell you what, I'm going to torture them like they tortured my family. But I'll do it with the truth.
And you know what? Carol could destroy every single story.
Yeah. How much have I showed you, Emma, that contradicts what that man said? He put stuff as fact. And I'll send Emma screenshots out of some of these letters. I went, does that say what he's saying? No. No.
They're
To be
disgusting.
honest, I hate the peddling all this bullshit. I absolutely hate it.
It's like Carol sent me them screenshots and I've never once shared them. Never once showed anybody. Right?
No.
I wouldn't. But to think that person writing about somebody who Carol actually was living with and in love with and had kids to, and you're thinking,
So now he's booking one for...
Listen,
disgusting
Lee
couple
was
they
out,
are.
right? Lee, from 19-year-old, he died at 26. He spent long periods of time on remand in jail. You hear all the stories about when he was in the town. You're talking certain months. The last 16 months he was out. That's all it was, 16 months and all that chaos. A lot of the time he was in jail and he wrote to me every day. So in them letters is what Lee Duffy thought. I don't give a shit what the people in the town think or what the Doyles think. All we care about is what Lee thought. That's what matters, not what they think.
You could destroy the full lot with the truth.
Yeah, and how many times have I dissed what they've had to say and proven it to you to be a load of bullshit? Even lying to his friends, lying to them, bare-faced lying to them to get cooperation. It's like, how low can these people think? They're just like, come of the
Carol.
Yeah.
Laurie didn't want anything to do with it.
Laurie didn't want to make a statement or anything. Laurie only came out because it got that bad. That man had cancer. He was in the last months of his life, and as far as I may as well put the cat amongst the pigeons. Benny, offering the park just before Christmas, he managed to speak to Laurie Duffy quite quickly, didn't he? The man died on Boxing Day. Tell you what, that's a load of crap and all. Yeah, we went to Laurie's funeral. Everybody else knew. None of the family knew. Not one of the family knew about all that carry on, but they all did. Yeah, I don't know nobody now, not even the respect anymore, the way things have gone. You think they treat the family with a modicum of respect, but no, they can't. They can't. They're just selling themselves. That's all they're doing.
How dare he speak to Lee's like wife, as Lee called her himself, right? How dare he do that to her?
How Peter came in when she was on my inbox and he said to get off my mother's thing now. So he messaged the page. So you don't know who he was speaking to, whether it was him or her. So he assumed he was speaking to him. And he went, you, stop this with my mother. I'll knock your fucking head off. I'm getting the police. I'm getting the police. So I think it was one of the Jeffries lads from Thorntree who was on their page and went, you can't phone the police on Peter Duffy. He said, you're writing about gangsters. The lads told you to leave his mother alone. Blocked. Do you know?
He was.
All of these mates who I've spoken to are blocked off that page. Every family member's blocked off that page. This is the gospel according to the Doyles. The Doyles aren't even Christian.
And you know how
no Christians behave in the manner they have behaved. They come on the scene with big Christians this, with God-fearing that. Up my fucking ass, you lying bastards.
And you know
you're not good feeling at all.
Carol's son and Lee took Peter on as his own.
He brought out Peter up as his own, bless him, you know what I mean? Every letter I've got, the stuff I've got, my son this, my son that, we're going to adopt him this. I've got a boy. When I fell pregnant with our Sammy Joe, I said, you'll want a boy. He said, we've already got a boy. I want a girl. That's how much he looked out, Peter, and it's plain to see in all his letters, but not according to these scumbags.
He's a proper,
They're
No.
getting our book, isn't they?
To
It's
leave
all
Duffy.
about money. It's all
Yeah,
about
Celine
money.
Duffy and Carol. Their
Are
real
you
story.
serious? Yeah.
Be
I've
careful.
already had a drink. Tell you what, one little sip past my lips tonight. It was at midnight to toast to absent friends.
Yeah.
And I've toasted that, but I don't drink.
Well, I'm not
My
being funny.
back's killing me, so I'm on painkillers and I don't have any drink on it because I'll be incoherent.
Carol has got the real
I
lead
don't even
story in his own words,
either, Gary.
and she has,
Yeah.
and that's the main
Not
thing.
like I did to Darren.
I mean, that shocked me. How disgusted now that this idiot Tim Foyle
This is
has
before
been
we
treating
even-
people.
Before
if-
we met
Oh,
Jamie, Steve,
If
it's
Lee was
the tip
around
of the
now, if
iceberg.
Brian had never had his operation, he would never be treating people the way
Do
that
you
he is
know what
today.
the style's doing by attacking Brian publicly all the time? He's hijacking his subscribers because every time he gets mentioned, it's drawing attention to the idiot. So really what he's doing is using other people's reputations to enhance his own. That's what he's doing because he's cottoning on to people with reputations, right? So people are following them people with reputations. So Jamie Boyle's name's all over it. Nothing to do with it. He's just a little prick. You can't even string a fucking sentence together and then mind a book.
Yeah.
Friends of mine have read them books and they went, it's not a proper book. It's just a series of stories of, I know this and I've heard this, that, and the
for
other.
a short time, as Jamie keeps saying. But like Carol said,
Right, well,
Lee was like a year. You know what I mean? It was so eventful. And Lee spoke to Carol about Brian,
What I do?
right? And then
Well,
you've got that
people
lunatic
day.
saying, "Oh, Brian didn't know him."
What I did not
you know,
before.
No, he did.
What did Lee say
Listen.
about Brian?
If you listen, I've known people knock around with Lee for a few weeks. What he filled in them few weeks was crazy. You couldn't plan from one day to the next. Say I said to Lee, right, can we go out for the date reckon next week? You couldn't do that. You couldn't do that because
Mhm.
everything was chaos 24/7. You don't understand that every day there was something happening. There was something going on or some stories. He lived in the back lane and I tell you what, he was 120 mile an hour every day. Every day. So, and they think that he was only 26 and they say, oh, these stories can't be right. They are. They are.
Trying to tell
When he
Carol
needs something, you think that's impossible, that, and it isn't.
Trying to
You know
tell
what I mean? There
Carol
are exaggerations all here, there, and everywhere, but believe me, 99% of what you hear is true.
Don't worry about it.
Well, he's trying to tell you different things about Lee and gravestones, this, that, and the other. Carol was the one that actually discovered it
I
all.
don't get drunk normally.
She knows a lot. She's got it in Lee's own words. How rare
Oh,
that
he's
person
put letters here in his own words, his own writing, what he thought, not what other people think. That's why I said to you earlier, I don't give a shit what other people think. I was with Lee. It was about what he thought. And in all this writing about him, it's what other people think of him. Well, I'm sorry, but I've got what he thinks. So I'll go by that.
Carol, how
So
much
how does move?
Carol is amazing. She travelled to every single jail all over the country.
I think alcohol.
Yeah, I did. I did.
She's like the best wife ever.
Bless.
I collapsed to exhaustion. No, no, it was bad when I left Lee, and our shell was bad, and the carry on, quite a story, but worn out. Didn't have, I was absolutely exhausted with the years of. See, when you're on remand, you can visit every day. It's not like when you're sentenced and you go once a month or once a fortnight. When you a daily thing, and when he was in the block, because even though he was on remand, he was in the block, and he was the longest prisoner that's ever been held in Durham block as a remand prisoner, and he got glandular fever. Well, how Peter did actually. He was diagnosed with and went in hospital, and they went, all family members have to be tested. So me and our Sammy Joe, we tested negative. Shelley hadn't been born then. And then they said, anybody displaying these symptoms? And I went, yeah, my partner, he's in Durham block. He went, he needs taken out of that environment immediately. Do you know what Durham prison, when they were informed, were treating him with? Aspirin water.
What
Flipping
the hell?
aspirin water. And I had to go to Marjorie Morland, the MP, who contacted the It was mentioned in the House of Commons that he had to, the prison were ordered to take him out the block because, firstly, he hadn't been convicted of a crime and he was in there on good order and discipline. And secondly, he was displaying symptoms for months of glandular fever and wasn't being treated. Actually, his sister said we should have sued the prison for not treating him.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Definitely.
you know what I mean? But,
Yeah.
he suffered. And when I've gone back through the letters for 7 months before he was actually treated, he was complaining about swollen glands and feeling depressed. And that, you see, he didn't have mental health issues. He didn't suffer with depression. So
Yeah.
for to hear Lee say, I feel low, I feel down, I'm like, it's the circumstances you're in prison. He went, something else going on. That's in his own words. And to go 7 months carrying that and not be diagnosed, and to be diagnosed and then not treated, it was absolutely ridiculous.
That's
It was.
Horrendous.
But neglect him, yeah, they neglected him. They
He had
neglected him
a
in Durham
best
jail.
friend called Dave Thomas.
Pardon?
Dave Thomas was his best friend, and he's another one that was tormented, isn't he?
Say again, Emma, because all I can hear is a few voices in the background as well.
Dave Thomas.
Due respect, but with a vape.
Where's
Okay.
it? Where's the noise? Dave Thomas. It was Lee's friend, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, Dave Thomas. Lovely lad, lovely
Another
lad.
one that was tormented.
Well, he went on, apparently he went on the Hall of the Moon page and he disagreed with a few things. So he said what he said. Now, Dave's very fair man. He does not paint Lee as a saint. He's one of these. He's very realistic, down to earth. And he went, look, he's a cunt. But he was my mate and I loved him, you know what I mean? And the Doyle started arguing, you've never seen filth like it that he's sending him. Now, this is Lee's friend he's talking to. But the Doyle's going on as if he knows better. Then the next thing he goes, because he was talking to Brian, I'm getting Brian Cockerill to come down your house and all this lot. And Dave had his grandchildren there. So Dave rang Emma, you know, to say, look, you can't be doing this. I've got my grandchildren here. This is out of order. You didn't know a thing about it, did you, Emma?
No.
Didn't know a thing. But that's what he used to do. Use people's names to threaten people. Heard it about other people and all. But listen, my dearest wish would be to see Shirley and Jamie Boyle, tarred and feathered, outside the town hall in Middlesbrough, shown up for what they are, because that's what should happen to them. Tarred and feathered, shown up for what they are, because they're the lowest of the low. Tell you what, when they stick the boot in, it really fucking hurts. It really hurts.
Carol went through this on her own, right? When he was carrying on with all this book coming out and all that and all these pages, she was getting tortured tag team by them.
Oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. And the way he outed Brenda, that was a bit sick. And complaining about their child getting grief. I don't give a fuck about their child getting grief, and anybody can say what they want, because it didn't give two fucks when my grandchildren had to go to school and face all that, and them children didn't even know the grandmother. So as far as sympathy for them and the family, as far as the taxis, they want them.
Sean Atwood, of all the places, allowed that to be aired.
That was sick around the corner from me.
Sean Atwood and JB, hang your heads in shame, filming like a tour around the corner from Carol.
It was a ghouls tour, standing there salaciously talking about it and acting it out. It's like he's not right in the head, man. No, he was round the corner from the family and we were sat in here that afternoon.
Insanity.
You know what I mean? And it's like, are you sick in the flaming head or something? Listen, that man can't walk round anywhere without his little dictaphone and camera, because he's upset that many people and blaming yous for the windows going in. I tell you what, I could give him a list of people who threaten to do things to them. If they want me to hand it over the police, see, it's crazy. They point fingers at people and they know for a fact it's not them. It's just to keep his name current. It is to keep his name on people's lips. He's a little narcissist. He can't do without the attention.
And neither can she. Who Lee couldn't stand, right? Doing books on a copper, which I think is a police handler. Right? Books on a copper. And at the end of the day, the cop was saying to him what happened. And the family weren't even told,
No, he's supposed to have seen autopsy reports and all this lot. I've had people, I remember, was it last week, a couple of weeks ago, somebody on YouTube, my friend was the one he was in the mortuary and he's seen the state of Lee Duffy's body. This was on YouTube. Seen the state of Lee Duffy's body beaten and battered from head to toe. You're a fucking liar. I was at the inquest, the mark, every mark. You know what I mean? I tell you what, there's some sick people out there. Some
what about
really
the grave, Carol, when he was saying the grave got smashed so many times?
Oh, 5 times. Me and my children found that grave smashed up. It was smashed once. And we know who's done it. And all that fanciful story about some Asian bloke apologising to Brenda. He says, that man crazy. Do you notice how he does it to people who have passed away? When he mentions, oh, Brenda this, or Laurie Duffy that, they're all passed away. They can't speak back. They can't speak back, can they? No. They can't say, I never said that, or no, that's not right. Yeah, Brenda this, Brenda that, Brenda's not here. Brenda was here. She'd have ripped him to shreds.
Yeah, she would have.
She'd have ripped him to shreds because Brenda was nobody's fool.
No.
Nobody's fool. You know what I mean?
Hello.
Yeah.
What did Lee tell you about Brian? Because I love it how you
Brian. Right. He come in my house, right, and he's chatting away. I was used to Lee, obviously being with him, yeah, coming in with his escapades. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, now how did he hit the deck, like? And he went, he didn't. And my head shot round. I'm like, what? And he started telling me about this fight he'd had with this bloke called Brian. And he went, best fucking fight I've had in ages. At least somebody's given me a good go, you know, because he lived for a good fight, Lee. That's why he wanted Viv Graham. He thought, he's going to give me a good fucking go, you know what I mean? He's not going to go down quick. I'll get a good go with this one. And Lee said to me, look, it was a draw. He said, I said, so what's going to happen? He went, look, if me and him fight again, he might win. He said, the next time I might win. He said, our strengths and weaknesses are in different places. I went, what do you mean? He said, well, you can hit him. He said, and he's that solid. He said, Brown, fast. He said, no, this, that, and the other. He pointed his own things out. I said, what are you going to do? He said, we're going to team up and torture the town. I went, what do you mean? He went, taxing, well, lad. Taxing was a new concept then. We talk about it now. Everybody knows what it means. I was like, what do you mean taxing? He went, taking the money off the dealers. I said, so do you think you can stay out of jail for a bit? And he just, Lee laughed at everything. He laughed at everything. It was, you know.
Yeah. And he just said, why we might as well team up. And they teamed up and they were.
And then he went, no, I'm going to team up and torture the town. And to be honest, that's what they did. Even though, like, if Lee hadn't been in, half the South Bank were coming in and telling me what they're up to. You didn't need to know where Lee was. You just followed the stories. When I first met Lee and he used to come in, you see, when he told me, I'm going to pay all these people back who bullied me and the names and all this, and he used to come in, I've done this, done that, I thought, I'm with some bullshit there, here. You know what I mean? Oh, God, he's lovely on the eye, but don't have to talk some shit. And then my mates start coming in and it's like, cheer about your Lee. And I'm like, what? Oh, I've done such and that. I'm like, he told me that. No, that can't be right. And in the end, I was like, shit, what he's telling me is right. He's telling me the truth. It sounded so outrageous and outlandish that I really genuinely thought he's a bullshit, John.
Carol wasn't involved in all this, like, do you know, all these? Like,
no, I didn't have a clue. When I met Lee, I didn't have a clue.
A proper lady, weren't you?
When I met him, he obviously had been drinking in town. I knew the clubs. I knew people who worked on the doors. You know people, you know. So, like, I've been going out a couple of months and we're sat in rumours. And he went, do you know a lot of people in here? I went, yeah, obviously, there's Jeffrey's there, this, that, and the other, and such and such there. He went, but do you know them? I went, only from the clubs. He went, do you know he's done this? Do you know this, that, and the other about it? And I'm sat there with my jaw on the floor. These people I'd known a few years, you know, going to clubs around the town. But because I didn't grow up, like people who grew up in the South Bank of the town, you grow up knowing these things. But I was a novice. I was an outsider. You know what I mean? I didn't move into South Bank until I was 1982, I think it was. So I didn't grow up around all these people. So I didn't know who was who and families and that. But you think you know people, but it was when Lee started telling me things about people, I'm like, shit, I don't really know all these people, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was quite an education being with Lee Duffy, I must admit. And I was older than Lee,
They have so much fun, and they've got beautiful children, and it's like, unreal.
Craziness.
One of them is like a reincarnation of Lee.
Pardon?
One of them's like a reincarnation of Lee, like looking at Lee.
Oh, Sammy Jo, she's handful. Her dad left her a few.
An image of the dad. Carol's very beautiful. Carol, you used to wear hats years ago, didn't you? And Lee,
those are the trilbies. Well, my granddaughter looks like me, our Olivia Rose. Yeah. She's like petite and very slender, where the girls is like looking at Lee. People used to say to me, you know, like years after he's gone, oh, you must miss him. I went, how can I miss him when he looks at me every day? And they're like, what? I went, and they went, oh, yeah, they look like him. I said, it's not just that. It's the turn of the head or the way they look up or the smile. And for years, it used to bring tears to my eyes because you'd be having a normal day and Sammy Jo would flick her head round and she'd just have that look. And the tears would spring to your eyes because you just see him right in front of you. Yeah. You know?
I know.
And
Carol, I'm sorry for interrupting it. I mean, I'd never ever showed them, but I've seen things that Lee has drawn in his own hand, right?
Oh, yeah.
In pristine condition, because Carol's kept everything pristine. And where he's saying my wife and the love heart and the things he's drawn, and absolutely unreal. I can't even explain to you what the drawing and the writing is like.
Oh, you could draw it.
Single letter had my wife and everything, do you know what I mean? And then she's disregarded as a nothing to by them two.
Well, all his hopes and what he looked forward to in the future and how he viewed life were in them letters. But they are prison letters. You know what I mean? You've got to put them into the context of, because there's a few ways, right? You know, the little stuff. You wrote me a letter and you were having a right go at me. So I'd have to look back over a few letters to see where I was having a go at him for. I'm like, yeah, you were full of self-pity there. He once said to me, he's in the block and I'm getting the brunt end of the system. You know, as if he was being victimised and I shouldn't be in here. I'm like, shut up, Lee, man. He's like, what are you on about? I went, how are Lee? You had 10 charges of assault. You've been convicted of 1. I'd call that pretty happy. You know what I mean? You could have been doing 10 years. You're doing 4. You could do... He's like, you've always got to look on the bright side. I said, well, I've got to compensate for you being negative, haven't I? But he was like, he would sort of... he'd get bouts of... And it was when he had the glandular fever, you see, because I wasn't used to Lee being negative. You know, a lot of lads are going about the depression and how they can't cope and how they struggle. That wasn't Lee. So to see Lee struggle when he was in the block was unusual. You know, I knew him well enough to think, there's something not quite right here. And for Lee to say, I think I'm suffering with depression. And I'm thinking, depression, your personality doesn't allow for that. Do you understand? There's certain people. The personality don't allow for it. And then months later, glandular fever, well, one of the biggest things is swollen glands, feeling depressed. There's quite a long list of things. And gradually, as long as 2 seconds, Olivia Rose, as it gets stronger and stronger in your body, the more, you're feeling low on that. But as soon as they got him out the block and started treating him, back came the old Lee. But at times he would fill with self-pity and he needed to kick up the arse. And there was only a way to do it. The way it in.
She'll just tell you straight, and I think that's what he needed.
Anybody who knows me knows I call a spade a spade. Anybody who's been around me and Lee knew I would always tell him straight, even shout at him, argue with him. I'm not having this and that. No, I'm not shrinking violet. But I loved him to bits. Loved him to bits.
And do you know what? That woman goes all the time to clean the grave, do the flowers.
I go once a month now, yeah. Until the kids were 18, they went once a fortnight, yeah.
Yeah, all the time. That grave is spotless and it's clear, the love of Lee's life. that does it.
Well, I mean, I'm just sorry that you're having a trouble from this tinfoil guy. I mean, he's a very disgusting man indeed, and a very disgusting family. And
Well,
all I can do is but apologise. You shouldn't have to put up with that
well,
guy's
that's down to
flipping.
him, isn't it? The fact was, we all remained silent. Everybody in the family, I remained silent. We spoke when, like, obviously the trial was going on. Brenda brought a report in my house, and it was like, they're doing a piece for after the trial. Will you speak? So I'd done it with family's permission. After that, I never spoke out. Lisa did in the books, and she cooperated with the documentary Brian was in, but what she handed over wasn't suitable. That's why she wasn't in that documentary. And yet she criticised the documentary. Bit of a juxtapose that, isn't it? But none of the Duffys and none of my family have spoken out. And it got to the point with the Doyles where the girls had to go because they weren't listening to me. I was speaking out saying, keep off my family, and I was really going hammer and tongs, and they were just taking the piss. So the girls, and I mean all three of them, not just my two, but also Lee's youngest daughter, approached Laurie and they went, look, this is crazy, we're getting no peace. And Laurie made that statement, and that man compiled that statement. It was very eloquent. I thought it was a masterpiece, to be honest. And it should be read by anybody who wants to speak about Lee Duffy.
Can we read that out? Can we read that statement out off Laurie? Because it's honestly.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, put it up on your community page if you want.
Yeah, I will. I'll put it on the
anyway, they begged him to say something, but we didn't know he was dying. Then it was a lot to ask of the man, and he issued that statement, and we shared it as much as we could. But Laurie wasn't on your Facebook. He didn't do social media. His then girlfriend, who became his wife just before he died, it was on her page. He said, please share. So everybody shared it, but it couldn't reach as far as the Doyles were reaching. Do you understand what I mean? He'd implanted himself that far on Facebook and YouTube that he was actually suppressing what the family were trying to say. And to be honest, I'd like you to read the reply that was put on the Laughter Mania and Madness page, where they said it was Terry replying to Laurie's statement, and it wasn't. It was the Doyles. That was disgusting. We think Laurie Duffy's statement. Hang on, it started off with, we think Laurie Duffy's statement is unfair. What? Who the F are you to even question what the family have to say and say it's unfair? I donate money to chat. Who the fuck do you think you are when you are toying with people's pain and heartache and poking your nose into a family's business to then turn round and say, I think his statement is unjust? Why? Because it called you what you are. Yeah, I'd like you to read Laurie's statement out, and I'd like you to read out the Doyle's reply, because their reply was disgusting.
Bobby, pass us the book off the drawers, the one that I did about Lee and Brian. It's on them drawers in that room. No, not in the drawer, on top of the drawer.
I always share them 2 poems I wrote the first year Lee died. I always tend to put them up every year, and it says everything what we felt from back then. They're in your they're in your book now.
Charity centre to my wife and all that, and unreal.
Yeah, well, dealing with them has been an invasion of privacy and not a very pleasant experience at all. I'm trying to protect the children. Now, my children have grown up, but they're still hurt. But the grandchildren shouldn't have to be doing it, and that's down to the Doyles. Down to the Doyles.
Right, this is what Laurie said.
Yeah.
Lee Duffy, Hall of the Moon book, important message. Please share this post.
That's what Laurie put on his partner's Facebook, to be shared far and wide so people could know what the Duffy family thought.
Yeah. So it says, my name is Laurie Duffy and Lee was my brother. I have never been a member of Facebook and I don't own a smartphone, so I'm not aware or usually interested in most things that happen on social media. My partner makes me aware of some of the things that she thinks I should know, even though she struggles with this because she sees how it upsets me. The only reason I'm posting on this page is to make people aware that the family of Lee are not in any way connected or involved with this book. After a couple of conversations that I've had with people I've met in the street recently, and also things I have read, has confirmed to me that there is a perception that the book has in some way been condoned or authorised by us. This is not only untrue, but the total opposite. The fact of the matter is that I was contacted by Mr. Jamie Boyle some time ago, and I made it very clear to him that I was not remotely interested in being involved and was absolutely against the idea of him writing a book. I told him that much pain and suffering it would cause to Lee's family, especially his daughters and grandchildren. All three of Lee's daughters have contacted me and have explained that they were aware that the book was going to be released and were extremely upset and feared that it would dredge up the past and all the upset and heartache, grieving and loss they experienced living through their father's tragic and untimely death, which of course what it went on to do. Also, knowing people have publicly shared their opinions about a loved one they have lost. Mr. Boyle tried to convince me that he was a crusader searching for the truth about the real Lee. How could he be? Lee died nearly 30 years ago, and much has been said and written about his life. Of course, people's points of view, opinions, and perceptions differ vastly over the years. People have used interviews and books as a platform to further their own agendas, much the same as with the book. 2 seconds, just read this, Eli. We all have opinions and points of view, and we're all entitled to it. However, how many of us would like our source of pain and suffering to be exposed and commented on by someone who who we don't know? Again, all for the public consumption. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of those who were approached by Mr. Boyle and refused. I like to believe that they did this out of compassion for his family and the amount of time that had passed. Mr. Boyle said he was a Christian, but did not display the compassion that he talks about in his book. When he knew that the releasing of the book that contributed nothing new to the Lee Duffy story would impact on Lee's daughters and family, they have all worked very hard to come to terms with their father's death and heal the emotional wounds, only for it all to be opened up again for no other reason, in my opinion, and profit. I am now told Mr. Boyle plans to release another book about Lee and even a documentary. What could possibly be achieved by this other than to make more money for Mr. Boyle? Being honest, sometimes negative thinking gets in, and I feel provoked by being honest. Hold on, Eli, stop it. Well, probably when you get the dog a minute, because I'm just reading this. Negative thinking gets in, and I feel provoked. How old are you? Right, 2 seconds. Being honest, sometimes negative thinking gets in. I feel very provoked by all of this and want to react. However, I have learned the hard way that untimely this achieves nothing, and I'm taking legal action. I'm a very private person, and it has been very difficult for me to write this post and put it on here.
I'm going to sleep now. Yeah. Have you got the? Now that is the only statement issued by any of them.
Good night, everybody.
Right.
That's the only statement ever issued by any of Lee's family. Do you have the reply of the Doyles?
No.
Right. I want to find that while we're talking about it. I thought it was absolutely disgusting. And the fact that they made out as if it was Terry replying, even more disgusting. And to begin with, what was it? We think Laurie's statement was unjust. What was unjust about that statement? Except it spoke out against the Doyles. What in that statement of Laurie Duffy's was unjust? It was very eloquent. It was from his brother, who was entitled to speak. And he told them straight, and they still argued against it. That's how arrogant they are. That's how fucking arrogant these people are, is to even turn around and try and put down Laurie's statement. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. It's like when Shirley Boyle's on, different sites trying to defend her husband. But as soon as you mention London, well, it wasn't me, it was him. Or you mention about Mountain Brenda Duffy, it wasn't me, it was him. Well, hang on, you're a tag team till it suits you. You know, you're quick enough to distance yourself from your husband of the stupid stuff he does. But she's the one on the inboxes. She's behind it all. He hasn't got enough sense to do it all. It's her. It's her. That fat little freak. You know, what does she call herself? A legal secretary. Very fancy name for someone who works in citizen advice, giving advice on gas and electric bills, isn't it? Very good. No, that's what she does, but she's a legal secretary. She even said to me in my inbox, we know how far we can go. We know when we overstep the line. You can't prosecute us. I said, does anything come down to honest decency with you? You know what I mean? It's not about decency. It's about what they can get away with.
Yeah.
It is. It is. People said to me, why don't you write a book, put the record straight? To be honest, I couldn't be doing with the trolling. There's too much. YouTube has got crazy. Facebook's got crazy. People can jump on and say the most foul things. You know, they want the Lee Duffy story, yet they attack the people who bring it. You know, the amount of verbal abuse we received just by not cooperating with the Doyles. There was someone on his page, he said he was a friend of Terry's, and then Terry said he didn't even know him. From Southampton or something. It looked like a right hard knock. Can't remember. Terry.
Oh,
what's his name? Let's name him. Terry. Oh.
I've got screenshots of all that, Carol.
Yeah. Him, I'm just this, I'm just that. He doesn't even know me. He's not even from the area. Do you know the amount of people these people talk to, the Doyles? And because they're talking about me, people think they know me. You're listening to what the Doyles have to say. They don't know nothing. Second-hand gossip. Second-hand gossip. 30-year-old Chinese whispers on top of gossip. That's what they get. They don't have no fact. Listen, Lee was 26 when he died. Is there any timeline of events? Any timeline? You get the stories, but they give no timeline. They might talk about Miss Chad. Do they say when he was locked up? Do they say when he was in prison? Do they say when he was out of prison? Do they follow the timeline? There's no timeline. He's gone around with his little dictaphone, sitting in pubs, talking to people. People's recollections from 30 years ago. I look through these letters of Lee's, and there's things I've forgotten, and I lived it. And I'll be reading something like, oh, yeah, I remember that now. Wouldn't have come to my mind if I hadn't had them letters to refer to. But at least I know what date they were written. At least I know what time that incident happened. You don't get any of that with the Doyles.
No.
You don't?
None of it's
don't get any of it. All it is a money-making machine. They've got their own printing press. They're not paying tax. They're not paying anything. Not even well, look what they've done to poor Marty. Never mind everybody else. No. An old man like that to receive less than £100 for his book that was written for his disabled grandchild, I believe.
No.
Less than £100. And for to put his name on it and put Lee in it when he wasn't even in it. The sick people, they take advantage. They take advantage of people. And I don't know why people are even bothering with him. He's trying to redeem himself. Oh, I've been 100 days off the drink. Right. You're doing the 10 steps. Is it 10 steps? When are you going to come apologise and make up to all the people you've hurt?
Because one of the main things about
because I'm waiting.
Is an amends.
I'm waiting.
You can't. The 12 steps is all about making amends with people. Even
That's
if you
what
don't
I mean.
sorry, you've got to be sorry.
Yeah, well, all these people, you know I'm on about, who are guiding him through his getting sober. Don't you think they should be sort of saying to him, you've got to put these things right? Because he's got them people that brainwashed that he's telling the truth. That man can't tell the truth. Yeah. He lives in a fantasy land. He is like that Billy Liar on the film.
Oh,
he really is. He's a fantasy.
Fucking Pinocchio.
Pinocchio suits him. You know Mr. Ben? You know that cartoon, Mr. Ben? He goes and puts his costume on and does an adventure. Mr. Ben, here he is, Mr. Ben.
Oh, hilarious.
He's
He's
really
like
right.
the
Oh, listen,
2022 version of
we weren't
Pinocchio.
even talking about the dogs. When I start on about them, you can't shut me up because they've
But
really, really gone too far.
Carol, what about Stu
Yeah.
Armstrong as well? Bless him.
Oh, bless him.
He
Well, they
was
were doing this documentary, right? Stu Armstrong and Steve Wraith. And we'd been getting all this trouble. So, like, I think it was me who contacted Stu Armstrong on an inbox. And I went, look, this is not what the family want, blah, blah. And I told him, look, listen, you don't know what you're doing. You're causing a lot of... I'll be honest, I told him, all three of Lee's daughters struggling, like, and one of my daughters particularly, and I'm like, you're affecting people's mental health here. You know, you're dragging things up they're trying to deal with. You just have no idea. You can't. First time is to put yourself in someone else's shoes. You can't walk in their shoes. You can't understand how they feel. Please, will you stop this? And after a few conversations, we went, hang on, Jamie Boyle's told me all the family are on board with this. I went, no, they're not. He went, are you sure? I went, well, I should know. Anyway, he asked for Laurie's Duffy number. I don't know what was said between him and Laurie, but then once he spoke to me and spoke to Laurie, he went, I'm not getting involved in this. He was the second one. Dale, I'll tell you about the first one in a minute, but it was the second one, and I was so grateful to him. And then he put a statement out saying exactly what he thought of the Doyles and that, and what they'd done, that they'd said to him, that the family were on board and that he lied, so he wasn't doing it. But Steve Wraith went ahead with it anyway.
That statement he put out was unreal, and he said, today I witnessed him trolling like women online.
Yeah.
And his reaction was, what was it, Carol? I'll be Teesside's most hated man.
Yeah.
So he's always...
Yeah, do you know what it is? Jamie Boyle and Shirley Boyle, it doesn't matter how much shit they get themselves into. They seem to just shrug it off, and it's like, here we are again. They're like a flea you can't get rid of, you know, that itch, that, he's just, that's what they like. And if he thinks he can come back, he actually thinks he's going to be redeemed after what he's been doing the last few years. You know, I'm clean for 100. Oh, I look at life better. Oh, I'm going to flood YouTube, whatever, with books. Your books are never recognised by, you know, how you get awards. They're not worth the toilet paper they're written on. You can churn garbage out all day long. You know, you look at authors like Dale Brendan Hyde, they get acknowledged, you know what I mean? It's like they're up for awards, or the books are on certain lists of you must read. You know what I mean? Not these people.
Everyone's got the same MO, haven't they,
No.
Carol?
I tell you what, he does authors a disservice calling himself an author. He's not an author. He's not. He can't even speak English. And my granddaughter's better at English than he is. He's just, you know, that even the thought of him makes my skin crawl. That's the kind of person I think he is. He's creepy. It's creepy.
It's hard to think that he's had so much to say on somebody you live with, Carol. It's crazy.
Yeah. He set himself up as an authority. Come to me, I'll tell you. Who the fuck? My language snipe, but you know him, I don't swear. But when it comes to them,
I know.
I can't bear them. But the thing, right, since I went to the police, they really haven't been attacking me. They haven't been attacking me. And when I go online and they're on, and I have something to say, like Shirley Boyle will be, you know,
Carol, can I say something on that note? Why I remember, if you notice, Steve, you only ever see them saying, Brian put a police statement in, right? They never mention anybody else or what happened.
Emma, funny you should mention that, right? I've got a clip. Yeah. I've got a clip of a video where he states that he's phoned the police numerous times. Yeah. And that clip's going to go up over the next 7 days when I can.
Carol will tell you, the police actually...
Right, I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah, let her tell you.
Right. Up pops Jamie Boyle on his page. A friend of mine inboxed me. She went, oh, you're not going to believe it. I went, I'm fucking sick of hearing this man's name. She went, he's got a video on you need to see. Right, Jamie Boyle. I am going to go on Paul Venice's channel. Really? I am going to bring you Brian Cockerill's statement. to show you he's a police informer. And then we're going to give you evidence of trolling. So I jumped on my page, public. So they must watch my page because they certainly reacted to it. So I put this public statement on. I went, Jamie Boyle's going on Venna's YouTube page, and he's going to bring you Brian's statement. Can I ask you to put mine up and all? And Dale Brendan Hyde's, and Terry Dixon's, and all the other people I've gone to police, please. And then when you're going on about trolling, I'll send you my evidence. But before you do that, Paul Venice, well,
can you tell us a bit where you were on the phone to me and the police actually got sent to you looking for Terry?
Oh, yeah.
And
I'm talking to Emma.
On loudspeaker, and I went, "Are you having a laugh coming here for him?" I said, "Have you seen what we're going through?" Do you know what I mean?
I was on the phone chatting to you when you turned up, wasn't I?
Yeah, and he'll only ever say, right, Cockerill put a statement in against me. He doesn't say it was a counter charge. He doesn't say that it was a mother of Lee's children did it as well. Terry Dixon did one. Dave Thomas did one. Dale Brendan Hyde did one. Simon Amberley did one. And mysteriously, they all got lost, all statements. I know.
I'll tell you what happened. And I've got it. I've got all the evidence. That one copper on it. You spent more time in the gym than you did on that case. We're not going to look at anything over 6 months old. Okay. We've got stuff less than 6 months old. Oh, but it has to be from their own account. Well, what about all these fake accounts? Well, we're not going to investigate the fake accounts. Well, are you going to investigate his IP address? The fucking idiot copper went to me. Well, it's not like you can walk in the house and pick the IP address up. I'm like, are you deliberately being obtuse? He's like, what? I went, you're deliberately being obtuse? Of course you can't go into somebody's house and pick an IP address up. The IP address will give you everything they've done on the internet. Well, I can't do that.
Well, all they do.
Like, what are you going to do? We're going to look at your screenshots. Oh, but nothing over 6. What they've done, at first, they were contacting us on their own accounts. So it was coming up like Hole of the Moon or Shirley Boyle, Jamie Boyle. But then when things got really nasty, it continued on fake accounts. Now, there was no difference in the way they were talking to us. It was the same conversations carried on. So same people. They were arguing with one Shirley Boyle, and she actively changed the name from her name to something else as the chat was going on.
Mental.
You know, the account name. So we knew it was them, but the police, no, unless you can prove it. I went, take the IP address. We'll tell you everything. Can't do that.
Carol, is, Brian Cockerill put a statement in. It's always like blaming
Brian. That's why I jump in all the time and I go, but it's not just him, is it? Or when the Brian, this, Brian, that, I go on, which I used to keep silent. And if you say, I go on and I say, but you didn't know Brian and Emma then when you were trolling me and Dale Brendan Hyde, did you? Shirley Boyle's the alternative comedian. It's that much of a joke. She's stupid. I don't think she realised how much of an idiot she looks when she's on there defending him.
I'll show you this, right, Carol? I haven't even told you this. Right. So last week I got a call, right, on the phone. And it was some people from London, well, a lad from London, right? Started saying to me, how dare Brian put a police statement against Jamie Boyle? I said, are you having a laugh? I said, who are you phoning me? So anyway, he's put here, is it true you made a statement, fingers down? Then he rang me there. I do apologise. He was staying with Gary Hutton when he was coming out. That's when he told us, sorry if it offended you. I said, that went to the police over Dale Brendan Hyde, so he's a stalker, like the real people from down your way say. He stalked Ben Doherty, many more. He's a prolific troll. He said, we ain't saying we like him, but we do listen to his stories about Lee Duffy especially. So I thought, well, the stories he talks about, people up here, are all pub stories. The mother of Lee's children was abused by them. You're the only people who must listen to him. And he went, it's hard not to when we're in the Crown Pub in London and he's shouting, pissed or telling stories, of course, and then shouting, Brian Cockerill made a police statement on me. We're going to listen because of the names he says, especially Lee Duffy. but we ain't thick. We take it all with a pinch of salt. He is entertaining. He says a lot of good things about BC, but they fell out. We do know. I don't know you. Can't you just all get along? This YouTube is poison.
Well, he's regaling stories about Lee Duffy he's heard from others. Well, over 30 years ago this happened. You know what I mean? There are Lee's mates who have probably told him stories that are true and factual. But over 30 years and having them regaled by different people. It's like Chinese whispers, isn't it? But he goes on like, I am the authority about Lee Duffy. No, you're fucking not. You're not at all. You're just a junkie off the estate with delusions of grandeur. He's actually a narcissist. He displays every trait of a narcissist. He doesn't think he's wrong. Nobody can get him told. You know what I mean? He lies like mad. Every trait a narcissist has. He's manipulative, he's devious. Everything's there. Everything's there. And then he has these narcissistic collapses and then comes back like nothing's happened. Oh, that was because of the drink. Oh, that was because of the drugs. That's not me. No. Another star. Since they came on the scene, they constantly upset people. Don't people see it? Don't they see that everybody they've had contact with have chew with them within a few weeks or a few months? They turn and they think they're better than people. That's another narcissistic trait, isn't it? The way he talks, oh, I'm out of the gangster thing, I can't be doing with that. As if he's better than people. Do you know what? I am very surprised he has got away with as much as he has, considering it's supposed to be the underworld and they get things taken care of. He's certainly been allowed to get away with a lot, hasn't he? He has. He's just a horrible, odious little man. And I'd love to run into her. She's twice my size, but I tell you what, you go down twice as hard. No, they'd never give two hoots about who they've hurt yet. They go on YouTube, crowing, my son's this. He talks like he's got 3 kids. He's only got 1 kid to wear, hasn't he?
Mm.
My 3 children.
They were quick to point out your Peter to you, weren't they?
They were going on when he was arguing with Peter. He was going on these young lads, the 2 year between them. I'm a father of 3. I can't be doing with this. My son's a father of 3. You know what I mean? You're the one that poked your noses in our world, not the other way around. You know what I mean? And the way they've talked to my Peter. No respect. No respect.
And Peter has so many fond memories of Lee. Obviously, he took him to school for the first time.
Lee's daughters were 6-month-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old when Lee died, and Peter was 9. Peter's the one that grew up on his shoulders. Peter's the one with the memories. Peter was the one who helped me bring the girls up, telling them about their dad, and yet they disrespect him. What do they call him? Venner. He's only the same age as our Sammy Joe. He has no memories, Lee Duffy. You know what I mean? And yet he knows how Peter, but he's more important, Peter. But Peter lived with him. He brought him up as his son, but he's irrelevant. Oh no, we've got the big Venner. Jamie Boyle's going to make him famous. Get him on the couch, is he? I'm going to do for you this. He's been an actor for how long? For one bit part in a movie. I'm going to be an actor. Well, yeah, all his man bags and his designer stuff need paying for at the expense of the Duffy family. At our expense, riding on the dad's reputation, making money. Oh, but he had a word with Laurie. What? Literally days before the man died. By his own admission, he says, he only found out just before Christmas. Laurie died on Boxing Day. And never mind just going to see Laurie, what about his children? The Venices were very good friends. In fact, Katie Lee, his youngest daughter, grew up around them. So you know the impact it's had on these kids. No, it's to make money. Your man bags need designer clothes and holidays need paying for. Yeah. And he makes comparisons between himself and Lee. I done jail like Lee. No, you haven't. You stayed in home house prison, playing on the fact you had arthritis in your hands. Lee done hard time in the block. No comparison made. They're desperate to make comparisons. Desperate. You can't walk in his shadow because you can't walk in his shoes. There's nothing similar. There's just certain people and certain factions want him to walk in them shoes. Well, get on with it. Yeah, you actually look quite silly walking around in a dead man's shoes. Well, get on with it. You want to look like a fool. Because most people I've spoke to just laugh. Well, you know, it drives you mad. But the mere mention of them does press my buttons. It does. Because of what they've done.
You was alone, didn't you, Carol? You
Listen,
thought
I did.
thought
I was alone though, Emma. I
know.
didn't know Brian. I was alone and we were taking it. And my family will tell you how upset we were getting. And then, because you shared the post, and I'm watching, because you shared it, didn't know yous, so it notified me it being shared. So I'm looking, and I think it was Robert Suggett went on, Regal friend of Lady Suggett's. But Robert, I think it was, went on and went, hang on a minute, are you telling me I've given cooperate with this book against Laurie's wishes, and he didn't want this, but we've been told the family on board, that's why we cooperated. Then I jumped on, and you just went, oh, you? I went, my name's Carol. You'll know me as Bonnie. See, people don't know me as Carol Edwards. Years ago, it's Carol Duffy. You know what I mean? Never been disputed. He called me his wife till the day he died. Even when we weren't together, but the stairs were down at the flats in South Bank. And Lee came round to take me round, and he introduced me as his wife. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that was not long before he died. But the way they go on, they're rewriting history. They're rewriting it because their voice is louder than the families who are staying quiet. So he's getting away with rewriting history. He's rewriting it. Not anymore.
It's like he things up and says, oh, this is Lee Duffy talking in the Havana. I used to go to Havana, and it's not even Lee's voice. Carol will tell you she lives with him, right? The things he puts up and says, this is Lee's voice, Matt. It's not Lee's voice.
Lee's grave had been smashed 4 or 5 times, and these elaborate stories about how somebody admitted it and went to Brenda, and all fabrication. How can you fabricate stuff to do with something like somebody's grave getting smashed? How sick is that?
And
why it was fabulous. Do you know why? They had to go on as if it was several things, because the one instance when it did happen and it was in the papers, we got mentioned, you see, because we were the ones that found it. And we told him, you mention us in your books and you're going to get sued. So he couldn't tell the truth. So he made some up.
And Carol, do you know what? Do you know what as well? What you said something one day to me that was like, and I thought she's right. He makes out like Lee had a real terrible childhood with his father, this and that, right? And do you know what? Like Carol said, hold on a minute. If you've got a son coming in that has been blue sniffing, been wrecked or whatever, what are you going to do? You're going to bollock him, aren't you? That was the old-fashioned way.
Lee's dad never seen eye to eye. Lee's dad he never told a lie. He was very staunch. He was a very strict bloke. But we're talking the 70s here, right? 60s and 70s. We're not talking snowflakes like now. We're talking the 60s and 70s when your father took his slipper off and braid your ass. Do you know what I mean? Or you got a clout. Or the copper would give you a clout in the street and take you home and your parents would rollick you. It was a different time. So I'd not long since been with Lee. So he's trying to explain to me the relationship with his dad. So he's telling me the story, and he's like, oh, my dad done this to me, and my jaw's on the floor. What, your dad beat you? You know, I'd never grew up with violence as a child. You know, my dad would only have to look at me, my part, and I was in line. So he's telling me, and like, this is something I hadn't grew up with. So to me, it's alien. And he's telling me the story, and I'm like, wow, your dad done that? And he's like, yeah, and that's why there's lots of things like that over the years. And I went to him, at the end of it, I'm like, but what did you do to deserve that? Oh, well, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm 13-year-old, and I went in off my head on glue, and I started telling them this, that. I went, you done what?
And he's big lump of lad.
Hang on, you went in at 1 o'clock in the morning, off your head on glue, to your father, and started slavering to him. He's like, yeah. I said, you deserved everything you got. He went, you are? I went, you deserved everything you got. I said, I'd have been dead if I'd have even spoke to my dad in that way, and I deserved it. Oh, I know, but he hit me this. I mean, you went in 13-year-old off your head on glue, slavering your dad, and you're complaining. He knocked 7 bells out of you. I'm like, there's something wrong with you, like. And he's like, yeah, but no need for it. I'm like, yeah, no need for it, but you're the one out of order, not your dad.
But you got on really well with his dad, didn't you?
Oh, listen,
It's
I
awful to
did.
think
And
that
Lee loved it because Lee couldn't.
Mum's name have been soiled by the author, calling them and saying things, real bad things, and it's just horrendous.
In any family,
when you got anything to Lee Duffy, they would have got next to Carol and the kids, and said, right, hold on a minute, what's going on? Are you calling the mother of his kids? Hold on, this isn't right. Do you know what I mean?
To be honest, I was quite shocked that when we were being attacked. Now I know I keep my Facebook small, and since Lee died, I don't really associate with his friends. I have my own friends group, and even though I was speaking out publicly on Facebook, which I didn't ever put public things out, but I was having to. I was thinking, none of his friends are stopping this. Why aren't they stopping it? You know what I mean? You can see we're being attacked. And all these friends out there, you know, and it was really the kids used to say to me, my children, the grown-ups, why aren't they saying anything? They're seeing what's going on, and I could never understand that, to be honest. I thought, there's a lot of people out there call themselves Lee's friends, and yet you're watching us.
There's even a friend of Lee who condones the behaviour, isn't there, Carol?
That's what it felt like, yeah.
No, the friend of Lee that he makes out was the best friend.
Well, I spoke to Terry in the town once outside the bank, but they'd convinced him it was me, and you know, and it took a lot to change Terry's mind. But they're very convincing, you see. They're very convincing.
You've been summoned by one of Lee's friends as well to get in touch, weren't you?
Oh,
it was
I mentioned Neil Booth online once. I'll tell you what I said. It was getting pretty ridiculous for the Doyle, and he kept saying, I'm Neil Booth's my closest friend and all this. So I said online, hang on, why isn't Neil Booth telling his new best bud to pack this in? Do you know what the idiot done? Neil Booth, the idiot, contacted my eldest daughter to pass his number on. If you want to have a word with me offline. Fuck off, you mong. You go fuck yourself. Who the fuck does Neil Booth think he is to contact me to tell me, don't mention my name online? I mention your name online as often as I want. You keep going on, you Lee Duffy's best mate. You were his runner. And we all know you get close to your runners. A runner's with you. You know, he's up your ass 24/7 running your little messages. So we all know you know stories. But don't make yourself out to be something you're not. Because I tell you what, Neil Booth, I remember you from back then when you used to come in. You weren't in my house like you were Lisa's. You used to come when Lee was at man. And what I remember about you acted like you were ADHD, bopping about, you know, like couldn't sit still. You had copious amounts of fake tan. And let's be honest, in the 80s, it really stunk. And you're a bit of a strange guy. You know what I mean? I was in Stockton High Street with Lee and him once, and a woman walked past with large breasts. And Boothie, look at the fucking knockers on it. I'm dying of embarrassment. And Lee starts laughing. Now, that wasn't the Lee I know. The Lee I knew would never have let that pass. You know what I mean? Before he came on the scene. But he goes, I don't speak out. But he drip feeds the Doyle stories and photographs to make himself look like the big man. You see, I don't give a fuck whether these people, they don't like me because I call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? I'm not bothered. I seek my validation from myself. I don't seek validation from others. You're all trying to impress each other, and you really look silly from where I stand. And I don't give a hell what they think of me. You know what I mean? What comes out of my mouth, I can prove. I can prove it, or I've lived it. You know, I don't have to embellish any stories or anything. I don't make things out to be bigger than they are. And when it comes to me and Lee arguing and fighting, I'll say, yeah, we argued and fight. I was his missus. But it's not for public consumption.
Carol was as good as what she got.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Emma, you read about it all. Well, even when Lee died, I stayed on my own, right? I'm a woman on her own with 3 kids. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't like Leanerstown. Yes, there's people who like him, and a lot of people who don't. We faced the brunt of it. I don't remember Neil Booth sticking around in Eston after Lee disappeared, to face the consequences of his actions. But me and my kids didn't face it. The sins of the fathers were visited on the daughter, all the daughters, because they answer for it. My children used to go to where the grandfather, my pa, used to take them to, the Zanzibar used to be in Stockton High Street. So for the youth discos, my two daughters were there. The granddad had dropped them off. And then my dad turned up early with the girls. The girls were upset. And like, what's happened? They went, they'd only been there an hour and they rang me to come pick them up. So I'm like, what happened, Dad? I'm like, the girls were too upset to talk to. You know him who Lee had hit and broke his neck?
Yeah.
He was a bouncer on the door
World,
at the teenage disco in Stockton High Street. I think it was Zanzibar or something like that then. It used to be a picture house when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
He'd made himself known to the two girls and they come out with there terrified. Well, yes, you had trouble with Lee Duffy. And yes, it was bad and out of order. But they were 12 and 14-year-old little girls. You frightened the life out of that night. That come out there shaking. What a big man you are. What a big man. That's what we're about to face, things like that. Well, what a big man, 12 and 14. Two kids. Yeah, I know you, Dad. Yeah, made himself really known that them two kids were shaking and left early. Big brave man. Your argument was Lee Duffy, not the two children. You know what I mean?
That is shocking. Yeah. Absolutely.
No, it's been bad. It's been bad.
Like all the people that have jumped on board since Brian's had his ops and the seen he wasn't well and stuff like that. Yeah. The shit he gets, right? And I know Lee's not here because Carol, it wouldn't have happened if them two were in the
Well, it's like the Doyle when he was trying to offer Brian out, calling him spacker and that. My brother is disabled. I grew up with people like him, calling my brother Mong and spacker. You know what I mean? He should have gone to jail for that. He should have been reported for it anyway. What was I going to say there? I can't remember now. What did you say?
I said it's like if Lee was still here, that bouncer would never have done that to the kids. It's like that Brian gets called and the things like the likes of the author.
Oh yeah. Did you notice when he was calling Brian out?
And he was going like the lion.
My mate has seen Brian box. And he can't box for Toffee, right? I'm going to fight him. I'm going to have Queensbury rules. Hang on. The man is an extremely hard man with his reputation, the size of a fucking Hulk. A lot of people like him, a lot of people don't, but he's got his own reputation.
And he was.
It's like Brian's not a street fighter. Lee was a street fighter. So you found something Brian's not the best at, boxing. And now you want to confront him on that? What an idiot. I found your weakness, Brian. You can't box. You might be hard and you might be able to lift weights, but you can't box, so I'm going to box you.
And it's the mentality, right? Brian ran.
Yeah.
The story, like when Brian talks about all the bad things that happened, he was running the show. And Lee wasn't here then, but it was Brian, wasn't it? And then he's got lunatics saying he's lying and this didn't happen, that didn't happen. I'm thinking, what?
Listen, Lee used to come to my house. He'd get up the front of the house to Peter's bedroom window, all hours of the night, knock on the window, spend time talking to Peter. He'd be in the house and I wouldn't even know it. And he'd sit and talk about all these things. He'd be laid on the bed for hours on end. Had these lines of court and he'd be talk, just the same as he was in his letters. So I didn't miss a lot. I might not have been there, but I was the one at home who was sat talking about it too. You know what I mean? So a bit
in London.
You know what I mean?
I know. See, I can't understand how a person that calls someone a spastic, this, that, and the other, thinks they can go on a London tour bus.
Yeah.
With disabled people obviously going to be on it, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting away with it. But Sean Atwood
well, he's a creepy bloke, isn't he, Sean Atwood? He looks like one of them blokes that shave all the body hair and is like
Well,
all
Sean Atwood
fucking
thought he pulled the
greedy and
wool
that,
over.
you know what I mean?
Carol, Sean Atwood
Um,
thought he pulled the wool over our eyes with the book thing, saying, "Oh, it's terrible what's happened," and I'm gonna get.
John Atwood
I thought he
plays
was doing
both
us a
sides of the
favour.
fence.
I thought he was doing us a favour, but no conflict of interest, Sean.
Yeah.
You're too close
Yeah.
to Boyle, right?
Yeah.
We can't do anything with you. Brian was awarded his book back. We want the book back to scrap. End of.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, he can't even admit he's gone to court, has he? Split hairs. Well, I was dismissed from the court. I got a letter to prove it. You were dismissed at the beginning of the proceedings because you weren't relevant.
Any time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, but he's war cry publishing.
What about Paul Sykes' book? He won a Kessler
Well,
Award.
Paul Sykes wrote his own book, didn't he?
He wrote his own book, won an award.
Yeah, yeah.
Brenton Boyle, not Boyle, Brenton, dodgy solicitor. The book had gone out of print. Paul Sykes had died, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Got the book, and then this one.
Rehash your bit and throw it back out, yeah.
Put his own little spin on it,
Yeah.
and takes the full glory for the bloke writing
Well,
his own.
look at all the photographs of him holding Marty Turner's book. He put his own name, the Doyle, on the front. And where Marty's is, he was always putting his fingers over it, wasn't he? Every photo he had holding Marty Turner's book, there was only his name shown. He kept his fingers over Marty's. Like, that's that man's book. He wrote it for his disabled grandson. And he got about 70-odd pound, didn't he get? 70-odd pound. That's sick.
I'm not getting funny, Carol, but Brian has done books in the past, this, that, and the other. So he wasn't daft, and as soon as he asked for like invoices and stuff, they couldn't provide them. But I'm not being funny, but the books were like the paper was like school blotting paper or old school toilet paper, not like tracing stuff, right? And the artwork was horrendous, right?
Them cartoon joke things. Flipping hell.
Yeah,
them cartoon jokes. Tell you what, that one of Lee, the one of Lee, looks like it's morphed with Lee Harrison. Doesn't look like Lee Duffy. It's like a morph job of several people. It's like really weird, creepy.
Yeah, it is.
They're just produced for the cheapest of the cheap. And all the talk, they're not talk about the man, they just want to talk about the fights. Which most people, fair enough, most people are only interested in the fights. They're not really interested in listening to about Lee Duffy and what made him tick. They're more interested in, oh, he fought him and he put him down. They want to know about the fights. And that's what he's catering for. We knew the man, knew what made him tick, knew how he thought. You see, Lee, when I first met him, had an outlook on life. He wouldn't do certain things, and that changed over time. Obviously, standards dropped and things like that. So you can see it, how he developed as a man in these letters. And the kids, now they're adults, can see it. So they've got a better idea of their dad. But if they were only to listen to the fights and things like that, well, it just wouldn't be the right thing to do, you know. The scraps.
The stuff they're talking about, the fights as well. It's like all in their own spin, and like you said, pub stories, what have been passed on and passed on.
But have you heard how he talks about Lee when he's describing them, the salacious nature he does it?
Like an obsession, isn't it?
Yeah. When he out with Brenda that night on that YouTube video, and he was like, and Lee's blood run deep red because it was coming from the heart. It was like he was really enjoying it and salacious. And it was like,
but I thought it was really
because you really have to. Sorry, Emma?
He told me that when he was, I think he was about 8, he said, how it all started, he said, I can remember hearing about it when I was, say, however old he was, 8 or something. Me and my mates went down on a BMX bike.
He was 9, no, he'd have been 11.
Where he died and stuff. So he said, and I just knew then he was telling me to write his book. Same as like Paul Sykes moved to his house and told him to write
Listen,
his book.
When I was with Lee, he used to give me stuff, even at the end when he was released and he was split up, and he's like, you've got everything. You've got the stuff for the books, you know. And I used to say to him, I'm not doing it, because to me, You know my views, Emma. As far as I'm concerned, Lee was on self-destruct. He knew what he was doing. I know a lot of people don't agree with me, but they're my views
Yeah, he was
on
on
what I've
self-destruct.
been
Yeah,
there and my experiences.
yeah,
So,
you're right.
that's how I viewed it. I've lost my train of thought again, haven't
He
I?
was self-destruct, Carol. You're right.
Yeah, he was. So, I look at things different to other people. You know, it's like, it's, you see...
You kept Lee, like, he needed someone like you, someone strong-minded, someone who wouldn't put up with like him just saying this, that, and the other, like he did about his dad. You pull him on it, and you kept him right. And the amount of times you wanted to be back with you, this, that, and the other is unreal. But
Oh,
I think
all the
after
time.
that,
Listen,
it went,
right through from about 6 weeks after he come out, I'd had a breakdown and everything. It was quite a horrendous time for me. And about 6 weeks after he started, and it's like, I want to come home. I'm like, no, I want to come home. Your girlfriend's pregnant. I want to come home. And right up until just before the first shootings, the last time he asked, and I'm like, Lee, I'm not coming back to this life and the kids. This was before the shootings and all that. And he went to home house. So then this is the conversation on the night. The next morning he came and he was with Neil Booth. And he went, he was a bit he was quite napped, you know, because I kept saying no. I was slept with him and enjoyed his company. I kept saying no to getting back together. So the next morning he turned up. I knew he was in a mood. He was like, you know, them letters I sent you? I went, which ones? Because there's hundreds. The ones I've sent you when I've been with Lisa. What, the ones where you asked me to take you back and all that? Yeah, yeah. Can I have them, please? I went, yeah. Went straight to the drawer, picked them out. I went, there you are. He went, and you're going to ask me why? And Neil Booth was stood there. If he had the guts to tell the truth, he'd tell you. And he went, I went, well, obviously you want them for some reason. You can have them. He went, well, what's in them letters could cause a lot of trouble between me and Lisa. And because you don't want me back, I'm going to have to make a go of things with Lisa. I went, do you think for 1 minute I'd show them?
no, Carol, you loved it.
No, I said to him, and I looked straight at him, do you think I'd show them? And he went, well, I don't know. I said, they don't call me Lisa Stockel. He went, what do you mean? I said, because she'd show me them. I said, but you know what? No, I'm not that type of person. I'm not that type of person. And I give him the letters. Lisa would have died if she'd read them. So Lee goes to prison for the when the shooting started. I've got the date somewhere, and I worked it out 2 years ago. It was 3 days before Neil Booth's 21st, because it was the fact Neil Booth's 21st had been mentioned that made me check it out. What was said about Neil Booth's 21st by the Doyle, Lee was so devastated he couldn't be out for his best mate's 21st birthday party and blah, blah, blah. I was like, what? Went back to the letters. 3 days before Neil Booth's 21st was when the attempted kidnapping on my kids at the school.
Attempted
Somebody
kidnapping.
tried to take my eldest out of school. Tried to take Peter and Sammy Joe. Michelle wasn't of school age. So I gets back from work and all this police CID all over the place, school involved. And Brenda and Lee's mum and dad come round, Brenda and Laurie. So Brenda shot straight up to Lisa's. She'll be visiting him tomorrow in home house. I'll tell her to tell him. I'm like, right, well, I'm in total panic. You know what I mean? Somebody trying to abduct me kids. So anyway, this all going on, dealing with the police and everything. A week later, the kids, get a letter for the kids. Michelle's got it, my youngest daughter. She owns that letter. And in that letter, he says, I'm so sorry about what happened at the school, kids. I'll find out who it is and all this. I'm sorry, I've only just written to you, but I've only just been told by the police. A week later, he found out off the police. Lisa and Neil Booth went visiting Lee, but didn't tell him. And in this letter, didn't tell him about his own kids. And in this letter, he says, they didn't tell me because they didn't want me to worry. What right did Lisa Stockel and Neil Booth have to withhold any information regarding these kids? Neither of them. No, because Lisa had her baby up there. That's to do with her. But she has nothing to do with me and my children with Lee. Yet they withheld that information from Lee Duffy. Now, you know, when the Doyle goes on about, Lee was going to kill Neil Booth once, but we can't say what for. I strongly suspect it was over that, because I'd have loved to be in a fly on the wall when he pulled Neil Booth.
I can remember you, like, you've always cooked and you're always like, because you like proper.
I've always lived around the dining table. Any of Lee's friends who ever come to the house will tell you. Lee used to say to me, I know a lot of people. He said, if they come to the house and they're like round our table, you know, you can talk to them, you trust them, be in the house. He said, if you meet people out and go, they're my friend, but don't invite them to the house. You keep them at a certain distance. Do you know what I mean?
And you
So I know people that come in the house, like the Suggets and things like that. They were true friends of Lee's. But other people I've met who, he wouldn't invite them in and wouldn't bring them home. And I'm like, why? They're associates. But you call them friends, yeah, but they're associates. You know, the worldly, the same with Brian, the same with Lee, the world they work in. You come across people of all types. You wouldn't have them near your kids, though, would you?
Absolutely
You know
awful.
what I mean?
The disrespect, right? That Brian and get, right, and the people that call this and call that.
Yeah, but the disrespect that, right? Everybody gets older. Everybody gets older. And they're going, you're an old man now. You've got to respect people. My dad, my pa, he was a Royal Horse Guards. He was in the Household Cavalry, very old school, you know what I mean? Old school bloke. And he went, about Lee, and he went, listen, yeah, he's a gangster. And he didn't approve of him. He didn't want, obviously, I'm his daughter. And he's like, but you've got to admire anybody at the top of the profession. He said, and he's certainly at the top of his profession. And what was that? Being top dog?
Yeah.
That was the top of his profession. So he was at the top. So when they're knocking people like the Lees, who's not here, and the Bryans, who's got older and think they can say things, it's about their own respect. They don't know how to respect people, because just because you're an old man now doesn't mean you can't respect who someone was, because they're still the same person. And the Doyle who calls someone out who's disabled, I'm calling Brian Cockerill out, sounding like the fucking Terminator as if he's dicky hard, you know what I mean? You're not an hard man, you look like an arsehole. You look like a purebred arsehole. You know, and I think
horrendous, isn't it? All of it. And sometimes I get horrified by the comments, and I think, like, you just haven't got a clue. Like, there's people still around that can verify.
Well, they put people off like me telling the Lee Duffy story. Lee always wanted me to tell his story. Every time anything was in the paper, I threw it in a box. You've seen the boxes of stuff I've got, Emma. Unreal. You've seen all the letters. He always wanted his story told. But Lee's not here now. And we have to deal with the consequences. And the trolling and the nastiness make it impossible. So they shot themselves in their own foot. The Doyles might be able to put up with it. I don't want to put up with it. Why would I want to live every day in them kind of circumstances? You know what I mean? I don't do that. But they want to do that because it makes them money. The only reason I would speak out and tell the truth is because, well, it was what Lee wanted. But I've got to consider them left behind.
Those who are still living. That can actually write the Lee Duffy story.
Well, yeah. Well, I know Lorna Lancaster was round the corner with Terry and the Doyle.
That has got it in his own words.
Sorry, Emma, but sorry.
You're the only person that has got it. It's quite mad how them letters explain everything.
It's because they continue. If you've got there's people like Big Mac, Dave Woods, he'll have lots of letters off Lee. Who else? He's good, mate. Me and names. It's gone. There's good friends of Lee's who'll have letters, but not of the amount I've got, with the consistency of day to day, so you can track what he was thinking and feeling.
Not one.
You know what I mean? And you write your letters different to your missus than you would to your mates, don't you?
Not one thing that's been wrote or said by anyone actually comes anywhere near what.
No, and his closest friends haven't spoken out. The people who were close to him, like the Jeffreys, Molly
like I
Jeffries.
said to you, there isn't just one book there. There's like
Oh,
many books.
no, listen.
There's a film in
Listen,
Leeds.
you know, I'm putting it all down for the kids. They've got the right to know everything. Well, they don't have the right to know everything, but I want to tell them.
I'm pleased because I'm so pleased that before you took them to the solicitor and put them in that vault and all that, I'm pleased that you actually showed me that.
It was becoming known. It was becoming known that I possessed these letters. And when I was with my ex, he went to me, "Aren't you a bit worried about having them in the house?" And I went, "What do you mean?" He went, "Well, what if somebody took them?" And I was like, "Shit."
I'm so pleased.
And it was only a few months ago. I went to the solicitor and I went, "What's it going to cost me to have these stored here, or do I need to go to the bank?" So I just done photocopies of it. So I've got my copies at home, so I can always check something out. But for safety's sake, I had to put them in with the solicitor.
How pristine did you before you went to solicitors that day? And you said have a quick look, and I couldn't believe and how unique the writing, the drawings, the love, and everything.
Well, I'm more than not complete because there's about 20 pages that I can't match up with fronts. You know, there's obviously stuff gone missing over the years because at the back of all these letters and date orders, I've got quite a stack where it's like page 4, 5, and 6 and 7 to a letter, and I can't match it up because it's got separated. You know what I mean? So I put them all in sleeves. And I've done my best to match it all up. Obviously, these letters point straight to all the trials. I sat through every trial, except the one who got the first 4 years. For obviously, I wasn't with him. But all the trials after that, every time he was up at court, I sat through trials. There was a trial once. He was up at court. This is a madness. It's madness. These 2 lasses in rumours, and Lee got charged. So the court case come. Lee was not happy at being charged over these 2 lasses. He always used to say, you know, the biggest trouble caused in the nightclub, the lasses were nails. And this is before false nails come out. When lasses were nails, they're dangerous. So anyway, he got charged, and he was absolutely pissed off. He'd been charged with these 2 lasses. So anyway, it comes to months and months later on remand, you know, with other things to be on remand. But this was one of the charges, go to court. So these 2 girls get up and they're giving their evidence of this brutal attack. Honest, I'm sat there like, I'm thinking, what? What? The girls? You know what I mean? And it's brutal. Really slammed him. He slammed me face into the wall. He threw me and he jammed my arm up my back. And they both, you know, give evidence. So the first one gave evidence. And it was funny because the defence said, we don't want to cross-examine her just yet. Can we do it after the other one's been? So they had to send everybody out because it was an unusual thing.
Yeah.
And they put the reasons for doing this, so that the court agreed. So both girls had given the evidence before they were cross-examined. Because as they were going in and out in the court, they could have tipped each other off, even though they hadn't. So they both give these horrendous accounts. I'm sat there disgusted. I'm thinking, Lee, have you done that 2 lasses? Then the barrister. No, Lee always had the same barrister. Call him Barry Stewart. To be honest, he died in similar circumstances to Robert Maxwell, you know, off a yacht near Egypt. That's a story in himself, Lee's barrister. But by the by. So anyway, his barrister gets up. And Barry Stewart was a bit like Rumpole of the Old Bailey. I don't know if you remember. You have to be of a certain age to remember Rumpole of the Old Bailey. Yeah. You know, he's Wigan. And he's talking to the first girl, and he went, the assault, oh, were you frightened? Yeah. Right. Let's get the photographs up from the police. Oh, dear. Miss, I can't remember her name now. Oh, I have the transcripts from the trial. He went, put the photographs on. Can you show me your injuries? So the judge is like, it was Stroyne as well. Very hard, very fair trial judge, but very hard on sentencing was Judge Stroyne. So anyway, he's looking over his like bifocals, wondering what the hell's going on. There wasn't a mark on him. There wasn't a mark on either girl. Not one mark. They both described vicious assaults by a 6'2" Lee Duffy. how he'd slammed them into walls and done all sorts and ripped a girl's top off. That's another one. No, that was a separate
consistent injuries to that, weren't there?
Do you know what they'd done? Now, he'd been on remand for months over that. It was a Crown Court trial. So can you imagine the money spent? So he made Lee Duffy straw in the end of the trial stand up. Mr. Duffy, I bound you over for the sum of £100 for 12 months. In other words, get into trouble, next 12 months, you're going to pay £100.
Yeah.
The girls are sat there, near me, because coming to court for the sentencing.
Yeah.
Stroyne, never been heard of this. Stroyne addressed the two girls, stand up. Now, they were in the seats near me. You know, they'd come back into the court to see what Lee get, found guilty or not guilty.
Yeah.
And he made them two girls stand up in the court. And he said, the behaviour and this trial has been a waste of money. I am binding both of yous over for the sum of £100 as well. Did court dismiss, get in our court. Right. So Lee got the same as what they got. They weren't even charged. I don't know how he was managed to bind them over for the sum of £100 when they weren't even charged.
Horrendous, Carol.
Because it was such a you know what I mean?
Right,
they took it right to Crown Court, the prosecution, the police and the prosecution, and them two girls took it all away, and they shot themselves in the foot by their own exaggerations. Even Stroyne turned around and said, show us where these marks are. You said your face was slammed into a wall. Show us. Oh, Your Honour, no. The prosecution barrister got up and said, oh, but these photographs were taken that night and the bruising didn't come out till the next day. Stroyne looked up over his half-rimmed glasses and went, do you expect me to believe that? And he stood on. But have you ever heard, and he did that trial through all them magistrates' courts and getting sent to Crown Court, appearing in Crown Court, guilty plea, not guilty plea. Then the trial over two little slappers.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't have a mark on them. Yeah, there must probably been an altercation. I think Lee said something about them calling a nuisance. He went to put them out and they started kicking off. They needed physically putting out because they were drunk. But to do all that, all that money for a couple of silly little girls. Yeah, that was just one of the trials. There was another trial involving a bloke from Middlesbrough, actually, and his wife was given evidence, and she pulled a dress out as she's given evidence over her handbag and made out Lee ripped it off her during the fight. The judge had to stop the trial and went, you can't do that. He ripped this dress off me. They went, that was not entered into evidence. That has not been mentioned, and she pulled it out in front of the jury. Oh, pulled the dress out. He ripped this off me, and they went, hang on. If that had happened, the police would have took it off you. It had been entered into evidence. But to try and sway the jury, yeah. Do you know how many people lost their tempers? Lost their tempers in Crown Court trying to get Lee sent down because they exaggerate.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, instead of just telling the facts, and like when the defence are like tripping them up, and they get mad. You get them to lose. Lee used to say, all you've got to do is get them to lose the temper. Or you go for old-style committals. Now, any lads who've been across, old-style committals is like a mini trial, but it's just the prosecution. In other words, instead of it just going down in depositions, it all goes in front of the magistrate, and the witnesses give their evidence in front of the magistrate. Then it's deemed whether there's enough to commit it to Crown Court. Yeah. But Lee used to say the best thing about that, because they give evidence under oath, that when they go to Crown Court, they only have to contradict themselves once or twice, or exaggerate slightly, and they're tripping themselves up. Now, before the right to remain silent came in, well, you can still get round it, but before you had the right to remain silent. So you'd remain silent until you found out what the prosecution had on you.
Of course.
And with assault, Lee used to say assault is the hardest thing to prove. And then the story would wind in and out as if to say, yeah, they're telling the truth, but it wasn't like that. It was like this. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Because didn't they do other things? They had like judging chambers back then and all that.
Oh, Lee was up for judging chambers. Every time there was a change in circumstance, he'd go for judging chambers. And he'd get out many a time. You know, oh, they've dropped that charge. Oh, well, I'm down from 9 charges to 7 now. I'll go for judging chambers. No, he once had 10 charges of assault. 10 charges. They all added up, yeah, 10.
Yeah, 10 at once.
And he only got convicted of one. That was the speakeasy one. And the bloke he got convicted of hitting, it was the other bloke he hit. I was there that night. But because the lad who lost his eye, his blood was on Lee's shoes, he got convicted of that. But obviously there was blood everywhere that night in the speakeasy. But he actually hit the other lad. He got convicted of hitting the wrong lad. He went, I don't mind going to jail for something I've done. He said, but wasn't him I hit? It was the other one.
Blimey, that, Carol.
No. Yeah,
But these
mad.
things really did happen, and that's what I'm saying. And it's like,
Oh, craziness.
I don't know how these younger ones have got so much disrespect towards Brian and Lee and this, that, and the other. And they come out with things as if it's all a load of madness. And do you know what? Sometimes I feel for Brian. I think you've got nothing to prove. We were all around. I was around back then. Loads of people were around. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like every day for them was eventful. Where these young'uns, it seems to be the sort of, it's like they get up to stuff because they're bored.
Carol, weren't
They get up to stuff because they're bored. Where Lee got up to stuff with purpose. You know what I mean? He had a purpose to his day. If he went out for a walk that day, Lee walked the streets on his own.
Yeah.
Anywhere. It's like, where are you going today? I think I'll have a walk over Winniebanks and all the estates. And if you were in town with him, oh, you could not go shopping in town with Lee.
No.
You'd be walking. You get 3 steps. People shaking his hands. You move 2 steps. People shaking his hand. You never get anywhere. You couldn't do anything because you couldn't move. And yet he's so hated. It's like everywhere you turn, somebody wanted to shake his hand. Oh, my mate. You know what I mean? And it was, you couldn't walk through town and go, say you want to dress for Saturday night. It was impossible because you couldn't get down the bloody road without 100. Literally, everybody wanted to talk to him. Now then, my mate. Now then, my mate.
Yeah. And Carol, in them days, there was a lot. There was loads of top fighters about as well, wasn't there? It was there was loads of like hard people.
Yeah, we do call it tough dog before Lee, but we won't go there.
No. But it's like,
they're the ones you definitely save for a book.
Just save all that.
No, that's a complicated story between Lee. And I tell you what surprised me is the things that haven't come out. The things that were major things in Lee's life, major fights, and yet there's no mention of them. Major incidences you think would be talked about, no mention of them. Because he's not, that lad who I said was a good friend of Lee's, I couldn't remember his name, John Fale. John Fale and Lee were the tight as anything. Big Mac Newell. The Jeffries brothers, but mainly Molly. Molly's like Dave Thomas.
Yeah, well,
like Lee, but they don't hide his faults, you know what I mean? Brian Jeffries. Molly Jeffries used to tell Lee, stop acting like a bloody idiot. Carol, you know what I mean? One of the few that could talk to him like that.
John Fale was with Lee the day they had a fight. But I've had loads today on certain places and messages held for review. Why does Brian pretend he had a fight with Lee Duffy and try and live off Lee's name and this, that and the other? And I'm just thinking, I was all mad. It really happened. Like, there's people all around. Oh, why does he pretend he fought someone called the Iceman? Hold on a minute. Brian's still got the police statements of the Iceman put in against Brian. Do you know what I mean? It was mad days back then. So all these does Brian Lie Channel and all that and say, oh, it's all bullshit and that.
Well, it's like, there's a lot of books written. You've written books yourself. People want these books, but it's just this mentality. Yeah, we want them, but we want to tear them apart and tear these down as well. It's like, but you want them. So what? Listen, there probably would have been books out on Lee Duffy if people had been treated right, or if they're going to be well received. Listen, you only have to look at the Gazette comments. Every time, it's always been, for 30 years, not 1 year has gone past without a couple of times a year it's brought up in the Gazette. They always leave the comments open, and it's always the same thing. Why are you still banging on about this? Use it. The Gazette is the biggest gangster groupies of Lee Duffy, and they make it. They cause the bad feeling in Middlesbrough, the Middlesbrough Gazette, because they won't leave it alone. And the way the sort of talk about him rubs people up the wrong way. Do you know what I mean? Yes, people within the criminal fraternity or within the criminal underworld or people who know these people want to read about it. But there's also people who have nothing to do with crime, nothing to do with the criminal underworld, who don't want it shoved in the face.
I remember Dave Thomas was another one truthful.
Yeah,
you
lovely.
told us what Lee said about Brian in that fight. And Dave was working in Blazers, and he said, Lee come in, and he said, he just had this look about him, and he said, I can't believe I've just hit somebody. And Dave said, yeah, what state they're in? He said,
yeah.
No, he didn't go down.
Yeah. I said to Lee when he said about it, I said, I actually said, how many times did his head bounce off the floor then? Because I was that sick of hearing, not sick, but got that used to hearing stories of fights. And when he said, no, my head shot round because it was the first time I'd heard Lee say he had a challenge. See, he lived for the challenge. He wanted to fight people like Brian and Viv Graham because it was like he felt like he had no one to challenge up to his standard to challenge him. Do you get what I mean? That's what he big-headed. He said, I'll get a decent fight. I'll get a good fight. Instead of
people
gone.
Knowing the fight better than them two.
Yeah,
It's like insanity.
But let's be honest, they're making money. They're making money, Emma, so
and
they
Brian
can justify themselves. It's called poetic license, isn't it?
Well, Brian said to me, he said he was so funnily and they had a great time and they used to be driving all over in the car all day. And he said, I didn't.
You never let me drive a car, did he?
This one, that one. He said it wasn't like that at all. Do you know what I mean? And then that's when Brian started bringing this real side out of Lee. And when I spoke to you, and what I remembered of Lee was a perfect gentleman, right? I never saw him in like for women and stuff like that. You see,
Lee, you could take him anywhere. My dad used to say that about him. He said, "Look at some of." Excuse me, my dad. My dad was salt of the earth, very wise man. Even Lee used to take advice off him. And he went to me, look at his friends. He said, certain of his friends. He said, rough and ready, aren't they? I'm like, yeah. He said, you can't take them into a hotel bar and, people will look at them as if they don't belong. He said, but you look at Lee Duffy, you put a suit on him, you can take him anywhere. He's got manners. You can take him out of his comfort zone, put him in posh company, and he knew how to behave, where certain people wouldn't know how to behave. You take certain up and ready hard men and put them in the certain situations and they become blubber.
Can we just address this situation, right? This is hilarious. This is the type of stuff that Brian goes through on a daily basis when they're calling him woman beater, this, that, the other, right? I've been suffering, right, from a reoccurring sty for some time now.
Yeah, we have,
called Blur. It begins with a B. And it's the same thing, but this time it's gone on the bottom lid instead of the top lid. And now we've got somebody on here, right?
Oh, have you got black eyes or Brian or the same?
Guys, so can we just get this eye in the camera? If that's
You've had all them styles for ages.
If that's a black eye, right?
No, it's just that. You've had trouble with that eye for ages.
It's the best black eye I've ever had because there's nothing black about it. It's a sty, right, on my eyelid, right?
Well, I had a bump on one of my eyes, on my cheekbone at the top. I fell off a push bike when I was a kid, right? And over the years, calcium builds up. So as I've got older, I've got a slight bump. Now, even in my 20s, it was noticeable. You wouldn't believe the amount of people who say to me, has Lee done that to your eye? I'm like, done what? That lump. And I was self-conscious about it because as I was getting older, I'm like, I'm bloody sure he hadn't. Are you sure? I fell off a push bike when I was 7-year-old. Well, why is the lump there and why does it go red? And I was like, you're looking for things. I'm not going to say things with roses with me and Lee living together. Living with the likes of Lee Duffy. It wasn't easy. I challenge any of his friends, all his friends who loved him to bits. Ask any of them, would you want to live with Lee Duffy? Would you want to live within 4 walls? They'd be off to London before doing that.
I know.
Yeah. It's one thing knocking about with him. Yeah. Oh, I miss the old days.
I miss the old days, Carol. Brian
I
was
talk
telling
about
me when
it's like talking about Lena. I start laughing and you're back there because your memory takes you back, and then it hits you. He's not here, and then it's like a wave. And after 30 years,
stay there. Just get back. And it's like, Carol.
yeah,
you have got them memories, right? And you lived with Lee. You knew him like the back of your hand, and like it's insanity. I think you must be sat there sometimes thinking, I can't believe what I hear.
Sometimes I get a bit pissed off. Like that one I was telling you earlier about, it was only about 2 weeks ago, when the bloke was on, the comment section on Summit on YouTube. But my friend was the person from the ambulance, the paramedic, and he told me these from his head to his toe was black and blue, and I'd seen this going on, and I went, "You're talking a load of shite." And he went, "No, I'm not." Well, he didn't know who I was. I went, "You are? And how would you know?" I said, "Because I attended the inquest." Oh, right.
Carol?
And I said, "Well, you're putting that out as fact." "Well, that's what I was told." I went, "Well, he said that, more than once, but it's not true." But he's the paramedic. I said, "So he knows better than the inquest, then,
Yeah, it's insanity.
Everybody knows
that channel. That's a bit, just by live channel. They think we're boots. Poor Bobby. It's like that has done a premiere today, and yeah, you lot didn't see me what my usual weight is. I have put weight on. I've never been this size.
Give me your weight.
And
here's me fighting to put it on, Emma. You know I've been ill.
Because I can't
fighting, you greedy woman keeping it.
Calling me like a plus sized enabler and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, and this channel, Carol, is it's just, you can see it's set up to troll Brian. It's got all of the usual suspects who were on the authors' pages. Right?
The usual suspects.
It's got the authors under the known accounts and stuff. And it's like the things that are getting said in there is absolutely, and I think these people don't even know Brian. They've never ever spoken to him.
Yeah.
Honestly,
that's what I said about YouTube and Facebook, that it draws these, these people, and they're sat there thinking, isn't this great? You're not. You're actually quite sad individuals. You see, everything I do on YouTube or on Facebook, it's in my name. It's in my name. You see Carol up there, and it's like, this is who I am. I don't have fake accounts, don't do anything, and I back up what I say. If I've got something to say, I stand by it. I don't hide behind troll accounts. I don't pretend to be something I'm not. I've been pulled even on YouTube. "Oh, well, you have a past." I'm like, "Yeah, I've done this, done that." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, didn't you know? I thought that's what you were referring to." I don't hide nothing. It's a good job I told my grandkids and my kids a lot of things I used to get up 2 years ago, or else I'd be shitting myself. In fact, I think it was one remark by one of the troll accounts that went to me on my inbox. "I bet your kids don't know half you used to get up to." Well, we know who was saying that, the Doyles. Because what they wanted to do was drip poison, I said, "I'm sorry to disappoint you." I said, "But I've been incredibly honest with my children." I said, "Because I don't want them to make the same mistakes I did." And then they start picking at your kids. They've had their own lives. They've made their own mistakes. And this, that, none of your fucking business.
Carol, I don't women there older than us and old enough to know better. I think women with children would be setting an example for children. There's actually women saying, yeah, the worst bullying Teesside. And then people have gone, do you actually know Brian? And they've gone, no, but you just need
Listen,
to
there's
ask.
all these people that slag the Bryans and the Lees off, but they don't have knock on your door when they get shit at the door they can't handle
But-
themselves.
But the worst part
How
about
many
it
people
is,
used to come to our house?
how foolish
Hmm?
are they when there's still people around that can verify the
Yeah,
story?
because
There's still people that
yeah,
don't. So then
but
people must
the
be looking
dollars
at
you
it thinking,
see,
you're actually getting false information drip fed off the you know where to come
yeah.
out with certain things. It's just horrendous. And that was
The
perfect
thing is,
example.
though, I
Cracking
think the
black eye.
dollars, because we'd remained silent, and when they contacted us, we said we're not speaking out. That we thought they could get away with it, and they're not going to say anything. And it got that bad that I was the first one. You know, I was the first one to say, I'm not putting up with this. And even the kids, my son, especially, Mum, you put yourself out there. You can't. Once you've opened Pandora's box by speaking out, Mum, you can't shut it. And when I'll shove it up their ass then. Never mind, shut the box.
Carol, do you know what the funniest one was today? So my friend rang me and said, "Oh, that channel."
But you keep forgetting we're live. I keep thinking we're having one of our chats.
Carol, I know I do, but Carol, get on this phone. So my friend rang today and she said, "Have you seen what's in that mad channel?" And I went, "No." She said,
crazy stuff.
Not only they're saying she wants to be thankful I only called her a plus size enabler of Brian's life, right? Because I could have called her a plus size thief. And I'm thinking, I said, do us a favour, put on there. I've owned every bit of my past, and there's videos out there saying about my past, right? I've not.
It's like blackmail, isn't it?
Do you know what
It's
I mean?
like no. Listen, when the Doyles came on the scene, and the way they were hinting at we know stuff about you, well, I'd say that no. It was like this sword of Damocles holding over you to say, "Go on, you do something we don't like, and we're going out you." Fucking help me, because the town know, and if they don't know, I'll tell them.
Disgusting.
I don't think. You see, these people seek approval and validation from other people. So they have to impress them people to get that validation back. I don't give a fuck what other people think. The only person I need validation from and justify myself to is me and my family.
Well, my friend said to them today, my friend said, do you realise Emma's like owned all of her past and she's actually got videos out there where she's won like awards for church and stuff. Do you realise Emma's testimony goes in home house prisons and different prisons with Junction 42 and a message trust with her story on, and hope that'll change prisons. Oh, prisons, really? I don't think so. This is one of their mates, this woman from Halifax who's about 60 odd, saying,
I can't see the chat you see while I'm talking to you. Can I?
Right?
Hang on. I've done something wrong here. I'll go back.
Jane Spence, while I'm waiting for Carol to come on, it's lovely hearing the other side of the story by you both. Happy New Year, Em and Carol. Oh, bless you. Thank you, Jane Spence. That's amazing. I can't believe that I'm now like worrying about explaining a sty on my eye, and that they've started already saying what a cracking black eye. Just for the record, Brian has never ever laid a hand on me. Never once laid a hand on me. And when he gets accused of the ex, when he was in his prime and fit as a fiddle, at the end of the day, if he'd ever laid a hand on anyone when he was that size and in his prime, they would have had more than a black eye. It would have the sheer strength of him. Do you know what I mean? It's so easy for these lies and horribleness. But do you know what? They want to be careful because one of its own family, Carol, has told me all about the Paul Daniels' son situation. I've still got that to come out yet. So maybe it's in a closet. I don't know. I don't know. The obsession isn't right with Lee O'Brien. But I could come out with all that about Paul Daniels' son, but we don't, because we've got a bit more about us. You can see it's a sty. Thank you, Paul. I've just had an idiot on here saying what a cracking black eye. It's insanity, honestly. Carol, have you got the link? It's on. There we go.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought I'll come out with a lot about Paul Daniels' son. What happened with him and the author? A lot. Nobody knows nothing.
He used to be a runner-up in Lincoln Way or something with drugs and that.
Yeah, because Paul Daniels' son was a drug dealer as well, wasn't he?
Did you notice that when he went on YouTube to admit his addiction to prescription drugs, he didn't say them prescription drugs were prescribed by his doctor? Because the fucking weren't. He was around town buying them off people. You know what I mean? We live up the town. Just to them, you know, when they ride up here to buy stuff in the little cars or they go to people to get stuff. We know.
You come in here and keep control of him, mate. Carol, look what Eli's done within seconds.
I have a giant bony, a roast bone where I got from our sheep, and I was saying to our Olivia when I bought it, I should be getting one of these for Emma and Brian for Bullseye, because I've seen your door frames and I've seen the legs of your table. That dog's chewing his way through the house.
He's like a giant wood rice. He's like a termite. I haven't even known anything like it. What kind
he rules you. Has he got you trained well?
What kind? Yeah, probably. Is it? I keep learning him out. I said, right, to get it off him, what you've got to do is you've got to make that instant grab. Otherwise, you've got no chance he'll have your life.
Oh, they are very boisterous dogs.
What
very
kind
boisterous.
of dogs did you and Lee have, Carol?
Actually, we ended up with Ducko's dogs. Lee won them off Ducko in a card game. Ducko was gutted, like Buller and Tessa. But he won them off him in a card game. Tessa got run over on Redcar Road by one of the knees. They live in Teesville. Lee cried like a baby when that dog died. And then Buller, we had Buller. That dog was like Lee. Lee used to lay in the bed farting and snoring. The dog was under the bed farting and snoring. So I used to go in and sleep with Peter. No, they could drive the pigs to market. All the Duffys, including the girls, snore like trains. Believe me. I thought the dad was bad. The daughters even give him a run for the money. Yeah. They have that small nasal passage, you see. They've all got that defect. And Willie having his nose broke at a young age, he had problems with his breathing. He actually had his nose fixed the same time as Cilla Black had a nose job done in Liverpool. Yeah. She was at the hospital the same time, yeah.
Because Lee, like Brian said, Lee was like naturally fit as a fiddle, wasn't he? Like,
listen, his body was so in proportion. You know, like when they're training, they get big in certain areas, and all the legs and the Lee's body, man. Oh, it's making me tingle just thinking of him. The body of a Greek god. He was just so in proportion. Him stood there naked. No, listen, I'm 30 years ago now. No, he had a beautiful body. Absolutely, all in proportion. And you could put a suit on him, and you couldn't tell what was underneath. You know, it was like you couldn't knock at his body. It was perfect. And he used to have such good muscle memory through training in jail. He only had to sneeze, you know, and they'd be back up. But he used to have trousers between size 32 and 36. That was down to my cooking, though, because like I was at dinners. Anybody who ate at my house, they'll tell you.
Well, you still do, Carol. You still do all the proper dinners and that, don't you?
Yeah, not so much since lockdown because the table isn't full all the time.
Brian
and my family have their own families, you know, but I always sit at the table.
When Brian was in
and I always take food when I go to visit.
Bacon sandwiches you made him.
Yeah.
Best bread.
Yeah, nice cheesecake or fish and chips, things like that. Yeah. It's a Georgie thing, I think. My grandma used to be the same. On a Sunday, we'd go certain place and she always just take a cake. You know, you have to take a cake. Or you go to a party, you've got to take a bottle of wine, you know. Oh, look at him. You little spoiled brat, yeah. You've ever been in the bin? You look like you have.
He's
Yeah.
been digging in the garden up to no good, hasn't he?
I can see, yeah. My ex used to have them, the beautiful dogs. Yeah, beautiful dogs. He and Julia. They don't do anything they don't want to do they?
Oh, he's a nightmare. He eats everything he's not supposed to.
And how's Brian anyway? How's he doing?
Brian.
How's he doing some pains? Because I know he's been in trouble lately.
Brian, obviously, Scrappy died. His dad Scrappy. Oh,
yeah. Well, same age as Marshy, isn't it? Scrappy was the same age as Marshy. She's on her last leg now. Yeah.
And the stuff that Brian goes through when he's laid right in that bed and getting accused of is unreal. I mean, half the stuff I managed to block, but the things I'm seeing now, it's just horrendous. But the only good thing to come out of it all is a lad's got in touch who's like a proper computer nerd. And he's like ran some program, links or something, and he's got a lot of names. So
you see the same names coming up, don't you?
Yeah, name and shame a lot of them.
One of these days, you know, like you know how, like in the news, like 70s racist remarks like "love thy neighbour" type of thing were acceptable, and nowadays they're not. One of these days, they're going to do that to YouTube. And they're going to stop all these accounts.
It's fair enough, Chad, so you weren't giving insults, never said you was. But your first comment was, that's a cork with a black eye. You didn't say, oh, yeah, look, Simon, what's happened to it? You automatically assumed and knew exactly what you were assuming. So you don't need to make excuses now.
Is that what somebody's writing?
Yeah. It's crazy. Trying to what he said now.
Isn't it horrible that the slightest thing, everybody jumps on the negative side?
I know.
It's not like, oh, Emma's, all right, what have you done, pet?
I know.
You know what I mean? Oh, that sty playing here up again, because you've had a problem with that sty. To be honest, when you get a sty, they tend to reoccur till the because it's a virus.
Obviously, you did assume because that came out of your mouth that, that's a cracking back eye or whatever you said.
Listen, just block them.
You wrote it. Okay, so bye.
Yeah, if that get anxiety, listen, keep it. You try and keep this positive. Your page, it's the only one that seems to not want the negativity. I know we all slag the Doyle off, but that's an exception to the rule because he deserves it. But everything else is positive. No, listen, to ignore him is to feed him because then he gets away with it.
You know what, as well, Carol, and not just saying this, but you know, with Lee. Right, Brian had that in him, that aggressive and that and all that, right? You've either got it or you haven't. Like fight or flight, I'll do runner and protect and bury my head in the sand. I wouldn't, you know what I mean? I'd rather do that than fight. I've always been like that. But obviously, Brian's still got the old Brian in him, and you know what? The strength of him is determined to get back now, and he's been training like mad. But I tell you what, I wouldn't like him grabbing hold of me and getting a grip of me because I just wouldn't. And honestly, people have wrote Brian off, but what he's put up with, it's
he's not going to listen.
I would never write him off.
He's knocking on 60. He made it.
Who offered Brian out for fight, calling him the names he was calling him, right? I would definitely be a bit wary about him ever grabbing hold of him because once he's got a grip with you, that's it.
Yeah, well, he's not an idiot, is he?
No.
Oh, I wouldn't like no. Oh, you only have to grab him by the front of the throat. You only need your fingers to be fucking strong.
Brian's most one of his most dangerous things was his head, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's like
what you do is people. Listen, Emma, you know how they've had me with steam coming out my ears. I've like really, they get under people's skin. And it's like, they get a buzz out of it. They really do. And the little hangers-on seem to get a buzz when they press people's buttons.
And what they're
But that
forgetting,
ain't
Carol,
about them. They're sick in the head.
I says,
What
all
normal people-
right, sorry if you've just come in on this. Brian's going to definitely come on, but we've just got a very special person on that wasn't planned. It's Lee Duffy's long-term partner and mother of his kids. So it's been amazing.
I keep forgetting we're on alive. I keep thinking we're chatting like we're not. When we get on the phone and we start chatting and going on about stuff and sending screenshots and giggling like two school kids, don't we? And it's early hours. It's 5 to 3 in the morning. But this is what we do, isn't it?
And that was.
Do you know what it is?
Out of it all,
this is alive. This is a live that's privy to our private conversations, what we do when we're together. Because this is what it's like, isn't it?
Yeah,
and just the lives looking in, not the other way around. We chat for ages, don't we? But we always have a good laugh. Because you're good people. Good people, man. I always speak as a fan. And everybody wants to talk. It's like everybody wants to split hairs about the past. And it's like, what about this? What about that? It's like, can't you just be nice and listen and absorb what's being said without the criticism and the, you know, I admire people who do a live, but they don't engage the comments.
Well, it's absolute insanity. Honestly, it is.
Yeah.
But Brian,
that's why you can't do things nowadays. It's very difficult to do things. It must be difficult for, you know, if I wanted to say anything publicly or write anything publicly, the first thing that puts you off is the way people behave. If there's a certain section want it and a certain section don't want it, how can you please everybody? Because you're getting the devil in the deep blue sea, you know what I mean? And we fought for privacy for that long, you know, from day one. It was like, it was in there. So you had to fight for your privacy. And for 29 years, we managed it pretty okay till then people come on. And we can't stress enough how far outside the box these people go. They're not just run-of-the-mill horrible people that you argue with. These are so OTT compared to anything over the last 30 years. It's had to be addressed. That Laurie had to come out and address it at such a time when he's never spoken out about his brother publicly. When he was going through all that himself, how bad it was to have to come out and address it. We can't sort of get over to people. They just think, oh, they can't be putting up with them going on at them. It's far more than that.
Yeah.
It's even saying trolling isn't enough. It's harassment. It's even bigger than that. It's
it's scary, Carol. When Ben Doherty, and he's like a professional.
Oh yeah, he had trouble with him, didn't he? Yeah.
He was a professional boxer, and he put on a post. He went, one of my most prolific trolls, and I've never even met him, right? And I actually messaged him, and I couldn't believe it. He'd never met him. And he'd been told for time. Dennis Power, the boxing trainer. Another
As if he knows more than them, you know, and these are qualified people,
It's like a string of people that are being tormented. And I mean, Dale.
Well, it's like they're like wannabes. They're like wannabes. So if you attack people who've got names and reputations, like Doherty's, yourselves, anybody who's recognised, you know, names are recognised or stories, right? If they attack them people, it's like they're hijacking their stories to get themselves noticed. And that's what these people do. Oh, but I'm an author, I'm this in my own right. No, you're not. You're an idiot and you get on people's nerves. And the only reason you're getting talked about is because you behave like a pair of assholes. And it's just great. And trying to get people to understand that these are not normal. You get trolls, you get people who say nasty things, but these are so far. You can't even compare them to normal.
I know, it's
normal
not normal. It's like something
it's extreme. Yeah. The extreme of it. And they must spend all their lives like online. I know Shirley Doyle does. How can she work in the views and be online at 3 a.m?
It's like the tag team here. Then they've got the
they definitely be able to
who were constantly on the pages, but they were the same ones that were with that D H from Carlisle.
Yeah.
The usual
done it.
suspects like Steptoe, I'm a Swinger.
Yeah.
They're all like known trolls. And then before
Yeah.
you do it, they all jump on you and they're like absolute
Oh,
insanity.
yeah. Yeah.
But anyone covering for him, wife or not, I'm sorry, is just as bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Takes out
Well, like
Brian.
I said earlier, since I went to the police, they sort of don't directly attack me. But even when I go on these, where she is arguing with people, I'll say something direct to her and she doesn't reply to me. And she did once, and I went, "Oh, shut up, you." You know what I mean? Because I have so little contempt. I have a lot of contempt for her. No respect for that woman. In fact, she should put herself in front of the people she talks to, because she'd shit herself. She'd shit herself.
No.
No, they are. And him, he's really weird. Sitting on benches, and all these daft quotes. It's like he really thinks he's a knowledgeable. We all know the sites you can get them quotes off.
Carol,
I've got Facebook stuff where I share jokes. You're only getting them. There's somebody else's quotes.
Carol, that Cockerill who Lee hated, who he's done a book on, right? It's like how come a copper just does not get someone like him to write a book? Right?
No.
I'm convinced, and I am really, really convinced that that's been his handler all them years.
Well, probably. Well, tell you what, you managed to just get away with a lot with the police. They certainly jumped his attendance when he goes to complain about people straight around the houses. But look what happened to us when we went with all that evidence. All that evidence. And it was like they didn't want to move their asses.
No.
That copper saying to me, I couldn't physically pick up an IP address. How insulting is that to say to someone? I'm not computer savvy, but I know it's like a phone number, but for the internet. You can't pick it up physically. He was that daft saying that to me. And I'm like, you're really taking the piss here. You know how confrontational I was with him. You know I was. We've been on phone calls with him, and I've told you what I've said to him. I've said straight to him, you spend more time, that cop, I said, you spend more time in the gym than you have on this. What do you mean? He went, well, yeah, you spend more time in the gym.
But Carol, even she wrote the other day, she wrote, do you know Brian Cockerill put a statement in? Right? So it's like all the time trying to put things on Brian.
Do you know me on and I'll do exactly what I did with Paul Venison and her husband. Put mine up and on. Put Dale's up. Put Terry's up.
You know, Brian did outed our address out online and put our child in danger. No, you accused Terry Dixon of that. Carry Maneuver.
Yeah. I think it was Terry. Did see Terry put her address online, like.
But now she doesn't say Terry. She blames Brian.
Oh, it's always Brian. How can you blame somebody for trolling when you troll somebody before them? I keep saying online, and people are that thick. Honestly, that thick. That even though I repeatedly keep saying the Doyles are going about Brian and Emma being trolls, they've been trolling far longer than before they even met them. How many times you seen me put on there? They didn't even know the Cockerills when they were doing it to me and Dale and other people. I mean, they didn't even know it.
Dale had aggressive cancer, really bad. 3 years. 3 years.
I spoke to Dale then, yeah.
And them conversations and phone calls he was getting all through the night, all on his own WhatsApp with his phone number visible and all that. And then he recorded Dale eventually snapping after he's saying, aren't you dead yet? When the cancer kills you, I'm going to do... I can't even repeat what he said. And then Dale snapped and went, just try coming to stab me or something like that. I'll end up fucking doing you in.
Yeah, and they've gone to the police.
Tiny bit he'd recorded off the phone call and went to the police.
Yeah.
Insanity.
They used to inbox us and say stupid things, you know what I mean? It's like, you're jealous because you're not in our books. Listen, you're talking to me.
Carol.
A person who lived through it, who has family who are hurting over it, who tells you we're hurting over it. But I'm jealous for not being in your tat. You don't even...
And then you've got mad people. Then you've got mad people who've believed every word that's been said, right? Yeah. On the whole, the moon pages. And then they try to tell you things about it. And I'm like... It's insanity.
All these friends are bad. None of his friends are on that page. Every time they speak up and say anything untoward that doesn't agree with them, blocked. No family, blocked.
Tommy Martin, can I just get this straight to you as well? Because this has been another false information that's come off that side of the internet. The Water Boys Hold the Moon. No, it wasn't Lee Duffy's favourite song. Lee Duffy's favourite song.
It was. And to be honest, I hate the song. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
He's all heard the words. Too far, too soon. It's like I'm going. I hate that song every time I hear it. It was like Lee saying, I'm not going to stick around.
What was Lee's favourite song, Carol?
Bad Out of Hell. Well, it was for us. Any lads who done jail with Lee in Durham? Chrissy, you can ask Chrissy. Mm-hmm. Any lads who done jail with Lee will tell you there used to be a thing called, was it Night Owls? The radio programme, was it Night Owls? We've talked about this before, haven't we? What do they call it? That radio station that all listen to in jail. Night Owls. And I used to put requests on, for Lee in jail. And they all used to bang on Duffy your songs on. Ask him every time. Bad Out of Hell, Meatloaf. It was one of the first things we shared when we first got together. I'm like, I didn't believe me first. You know when you meet someone and they mirror you, you've heard them mirroring. You say, oh, that's my favourite food. Oh, it's mine too. Oh, I like this. Oh, I do. So he said, oh, Bad Out. I said my favourite songs, Bad Out of Hell, I'm into Meatloaf, Deep Purple. Biker chick. That's what it was, a biker chick. And he went, oh, it was mine. I thought, yeah. Because at the time, he was telling me all these fanciful stories about fights. And it was the time I'm thinking, he said, bullshit with him. But it was confirmed because people were coming in all the time telling me.
Same thing as Chichina Shashish, but cost of living crisis, anyone with his books, toilet roll.
Yeah. Oh, I've lost my train of thought again. I haven't even had a drink or nothing. I'm losing my train of thought. Probably because it's 3 in the morning.
Forgetting I smoke. And the amount of times I've lit the same pack up was unreal.
Same here.
We end up speaking, don't we? And we end up it just flies the time.
Yeah. Well, we do this on the phone, don't we? Yeah, we might have a chance to catch up for a while and then we're on for hours.
And do you know what?
It's totally the public are privy to our conversation tonight.
This was totally unplanned. I was going to do a party because Maria said she was going to do it. And it was going to be great, all singing, all dancing party. Maria never sang in the end. Steve from Official Topic Talk came on. He was the one keeping it together. And then I seen you and I went, Carol, help us.
Yeah, it was late on there. I've had my granddaughter's here, obviously, and a boyfriend.
Well, Carol, I think it's done you really good. I think
it has. It's done me the world of good. I'll probably get a few inboxes from a few people. Probably get a message sent from Neil Booth because I mentioned his name. You know me, Emma. Fuck him off. No, but it's hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy. Oh, I don't speak out, but I'll drip feed the dialogue things. But you can't mention me. It's like, grow up. You're not 21 now. Yeah. Flipping makes me. Yeah, a lot of people disappeared from Middlesbrough when Lee went. But they didn't stick around. But they don't live in Middlesbrough now, so they can say what they like, can't they? They haven't walked the walk down here. But Neil Bull's son died the same day as Laurie Duffy, didn't he? You wouldn't think so, like. You wouldn't think so as far as the dog's concerned, all that fuss and everything. Well, yeah, it's his best mate, but same day Laurie Duffy died, and not a mention. Thought you were all over Lee Duffy. Yeah.
It's insanity, Carol. Yeah. Insanity, isn't it?
Well, yeah. And it's just the way it gets hijacked. I feel for the kids, you know. How Shelley described it once. How Shelley said this years ago. She said, it's like going to a party. And there's been an incident at that party before you got there. And everybody's talking about it. So you're there. Yeah. Everybody knows what happened, but you weren't there. She said, and it's at every party you go. And it's all about my dad.
Powerful, Carol.
You walk in. Everybody knows. Everybody's talking, but he's your dad.
I know.
And it's sad.
Like your kids have got to listen to that growing up and then.
Look, and Morley done a lot of things. But listen, when you're talking to his kids, whether they're grown-ups or whether they're small grandchildren or whether my kids were small,
I
have a
think
bit of respect, man.
that
The
that
kid,
Baptist did that to them when they were young, and it's like
yeah.
growing up, and it's they never had a chance to be young. They had to
Well, I
like.
had to tell them. I had to tell them. It's like my eldest daughter had a run-in with one of the Cunninghams, and Teresa, and they ended up having this big fight. And Sammy was like, I don't know how it's come from. I mean, Cunningham, look, sit down. And I had to tell him about the Crown Court case with the father who Lead really made a mess of. And he's like, oh, so it's because of that. I went, well, I don't, well, I hadn't done anything not like me, but they've made it plain. I said, it's because your father's daughter, darling.
Yeah,
So they've had to wear it, but the girls.
I
And
know.
yeah, Lee might have done this, that, and the other, but we don't hold you responsible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
The things.
All the good he did as well. Do you know what I mean? When you're good, no one remembers, and when you're bad, no one forgets. Do they?
You see, Lee, it's like when he used to get out of jail, even if it was a few weeks, he'd go and see all the lads' missuses, you know, for the lads in jail. Easters and birthdays and Easters and Christmases. You know what I mean? He'd do the rounds.
I look after
Shall I
them.
tell you something, Emma? Shall I tell you something, Emma? Since Lee's died, nobody's done the rounds on my kids ever.
I was thinking you've been left to it alone, haven't you?
No, but they never looked in on them. They
I know
never
that's what I'm
checked
saying.
in on them at Christmas, asked how they were. In Lee's letters, he's like, in some of them, you see, he talks like he's already gone. See, they don't understand. The public don't understand.
No, they haven't got a clue.
They don't understand. And it's like,
when
when the kids grow up, they'll hear about me up and down North East. That's talking like you've already gone, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, Lee, they say that, but it's hard because
nobody has a clue what you have got in his own words.
it's not that they don't understand what the kids go through.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
It shaped them. My kids are a product of how this town shaped them and the father. Do you know, I told you, Emma, and I'll say it publicly here, my biggest regret was not taking my children away from Middlesbrough. And I'll tell you why. Because then they could have grown up as normal kids and revisited it as adults and looked at it through the eyes of adults. But they haven't. See, I done what I thought was doing right, keeping them in Middlesbrough, keeping them around the people that knew Lee. So even though there was this bad side to Lee, other people could tell them the good side, but they didn't. They didn't show the faces.
Oh, it's horrendous.
Michelle even said, I didn't really realise about our dad, although she'd been getting told, and she grew up that certain times of the year, you know, to be at the house. She had no memories of her dad, even though she was 3. But it's like, it hangs heavy for them. It hangs heavy for the kids. And it's like, it's hard. It's been really hard for them to walk in the father's shoes. And it's like our Olivia, she's 15, my granddaughter. She can get in a taxi and somebody say, Duffy, is that Lee Duffy? And she goes, I don't know if they're going to say something bad or they're going to say something good. I said, but that's the way it's always been. You have to wait. Or you say, why? And you've always got on your side of caution because it's not. Sometimes it's, hey, my dad, oh, he knew him, or I knew him, and then you got the other ones, fucking this, and they take it out on them. Now I'm talking young children. I know my kids round about the age of 10 instances with adults. Adults! And they've been 10, 11-year-olds. They're ridiculous. Ridiculous. And you have the cheek to call Lee Duffy. At least he fought people in front of him, adult. He didn't torture flipping kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm just laughing about that Gambino lady, right? He's mentioning as this lady, Carol, she's insane. She is like totally delusional, and she says that she's part of the Gambino crime family. It's absolute insanity. So I said to her one day, could you say happy birthday to me in Italian? And she wouldn't. So, but it's just crazy. But poor Matty, she was jumping on his lives all the time, and she was saying, oh, the family are very great about you. And then she would just turn on a sixpence. And the things she'd come out with, like threatening people and the terrible names she'd call people, was unreal. And all she is self-obsessed. A bit like the author The way he's
Yeah.
obsessed with Lee and Sykes, this, that, and the other. It's like a scary obsession because they actually believe it, don't they?
Yeah, it's a bit. I've seen the way certain people go on. I could mention it, but I won't.
Yeah.
I think I've done enough digging holes tonight. No, Emma, you know I speak as a fan. I've always spoke like this. I can't do it any other way. And to be honest, we've had to get this sort of hard shell about us. You can't come into these things just being your normal kind. I consider myself a normal kind person,
Carol,
but when it comes to anything to do with it, I have to get a sharp mouth in defence mode because we've got no choice. I don't want to be on the defensive. I don't want to be calling people out. You leave me no option. You leave me no option. And if they ever come after my family again, because like I say, since I went to the police, really calm down, mention it, might make them start off again. But if it does, a message to both of them, I'll be tackling it head on. You're not getting away with nothing with me ever again. You caused enough pain and heartache. I will tell people what you are and how you behave till the day I die. Till the day I die.
Definitely.
I will be your nemesis.
I know.
Because you'll not get away with it. You can't go to a new set of company and pretend to be good God-fearing people like you pretended to be when you come to Middlesbrough, because I won't allow it. I won't allow it.
The good thing to come out of that scenario with the offer.
We all made friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Made friends. Yeah, you were now listen, I want to say this publicly and all. And I have mentioned it shocked us that Lee's friends didn't sort of say leave them people alone or intervene in some way. You were the only people who supported us. When I was frantic, when I was trying to keep them off my daughters, when I was trying to stop the vile stuff they were doing and the torturing inbox, you were the only people who said, no, we'll support you, we'll help you.
No. Anytime.
And that was all from you sharing.
That's a normal thing.
Yeah. But up to then, and I was telling you on that post that night what I've been putting up with, and you was going, but it's happened to others. Do you know that brought me a sense of relief? I know it sounds sick. I know it does. It brought me a sense of relief that I wasn't the only one. Because for me, I was thinking, he's me trying to protect my family. Leave us alone, this is hurting. Stop pushing into our family. And all these friends are going along with it and not saying nothing, sort of, doesn't matter what all them think. We'll just... And I was really shocked, actually. I was really shocked. Nobody intervened. And then you was calling out, and I couldn't have done it without your support. They held me together because I was getting at my wit's end.
Well, you've held us together too, because actually, when we go on about it, it's like people must think it's like
they think you're mad, don't they?
And you end up like having to explain, and you can't go. I cannot explain to the depth of the
viciousness and the deviousness.
Busting. I've never known anything like it in my life.
Well, that's what I said to you. It's not your normal shit you get. This is so far extreme that it's like so outrageous. It's like, hang on, is this allowed on YouTube type of thing? Are you allowed to do this? And it's like, yeah, they can get away. Well, why? Why are people listening to this? Well, hang on, I've said something, haven't they heard? You know, and it's like, no. So then you think, and then I got mad. Then I got really mad. And to be honest, there was a time I got myself bad on Facebook. It was my own fault because I lost it. But they pressed my buttons and I won't let that happen again. But it's like they thrive on these kind of reactions. They thrive on controversy. And it keeps their name current. And the people who they're attacking, like yourselves, because you're being attacked and you're going on about, is bring attention to them. Because the people that are following you are now aware of them. So they're hijacking other people's reputations to use themselves.
Insanity, the way that they then take over, and all these people that don't even know Brian or Lee.
Well, I had the Doyle once say...
They'll tell you how the fight went. They'll tell you this, that and the other about Brian and Lee. They didn't even know them.
Well,
It's
nicking from pound shops. There's no fucking pound shops then. How bad's that?
I know, saying he'd nick from pound.
No, but he'd say, you see, my dealings on my inbox have been there. She gets on the inbox, he whipped it up on his site, but he once inboxed me off his own account. And cheeky bastard, what right have you got to slay my work? You haven't even read it. I'll send you a copy of the book. And then if you've got out to say, but before I could reply, he blocked me.
Crazy, Carol.
Why am I slaying? What right did I have to slay his work? What? What? Are you asking a dozy question? Like, what right have I got to say something about what you're writing about? What I know, I lived, my family, you know, and it's like, what right have I got to say anything? You arrogant prick. You're so far up yourself, so full of your own self-importance. What right have I got to say something? Every fucking right in the world, mate. More than most. More than most. But they're not arrogant. Oh, I hope they're watching tonight. Hello, Shirley.
Oh, they will
Hello,
be.
Shirley. Hello, Doyle.
You can't
You
help
got
it.
out today. Please tell me to my face in public. Don't jump on me inboxes. I'd like it to be public, you know, see what assholes you are.
Until no Lee Duffy wasn't a bully. He hated bullies, actually.
Mm.
Yeah,
well, to be at the top of that profession, it has to involve bullying because you're putting other people down. It's yeah.
When
It's, you know, I've got very strong views about a lot of things on the.
Well, when Brian got out of jail and Leah died, and he was like on his own, if you like, he said, like, obviously he missed Lee loads, but he had to carry on, and like for Brian to still carry on and still be around, he made.
He didn't need Lee to carry on. Brian had his reputation before Lee, and he had his reputation after. He didn't need Lee.
Yeah,
like the Doyle goes on, he's always riding off Lee. No, Brian was a person in himself before he met Lee. He was hard enough to fucking fight him, you know, and he was his own person after Lee died, but he's riding on Lee.
I know. But I mean,
them
he
few
still ran the
months.
whole area and all that, and then these people are saying, he's like,
well, he ran it better than Lee. All Lee wanted to do was fight. At least Brian made money.
Who do you think was? I mean, when I was going to all the nightclubs and everything, Brian ran everywhere from Whitby to and he's not proud of his past, and it didn't get him anywhere. He ended up terrible on drugs and in a right to an 8, but he did do that. And these people that I sat there and I'm thinking, my word. And then Brian feels like he's got to explain himself to them. And it's just horrendous. And I'm thinking, are you all mad or what?
Listen, when my kids, I can't say I love Lee Duffy without having to just. People have tried to. How can you love a man like that? You know, I'm like, because that's what the heart feels. The heart wants what the heart wants.
Because they don't know the real Brian. They don't know nothing.
Listen, Lee used to say that's work. He used to treat it like it was work. You're not the same person at all. And I can't say it didn't overspill into home. You know what I mean? Like I say, I'd challenge any one of Lee's good friends to say that they would live within 4 walls of Lee. I'd challenge any of their mistresses to do the same over them, to be honest. But back in the day, it was crazy. It was. They used to go up the hills on the bikes from out the back, you know, because Lee used to be good friends with Dale till he went Queen's Evidence. But that doesn't get talked about either. You see, there's a lot of things that don't get mentioned. And I used to think they're big, important things because there's no research by the Doyle. There's no research. It's just a series of talking to people. He hasn't gone and got articles from the Gazette and this, that. He might have punched it in online and it's come up. But to physically do a timeline research, well, put it this way, to do a timeline on Lee and everything that's here, you can do the timeline. Then you'd write a book, but you could write 20 books out of that timeline. Say one about what kept him in jail, one about the fight, one about family. There's that much. But he's the gospel of all. But he doesn't know fuck all. And I remember in the early days, I'd mentioned something online. What was it about? I think it was about Dale. No, it wasn't. It was about John Teasdale. I went, well, you don't hear them go on about the John Teasdale carry on. I think it was one of them. It was one of them YouTube ones which were very friendly with the Doyle. They'd had him on a few times, you know. That young lad, can't remember what his thing was. And he was like, oh, do tell. I went, why should I tell you? Well, John, well, I said, that's the Doyle, your friend. He knows everything. You know what I mean? You're supposed to know everything.
It's absolutely tremendous. And to make out that you're all on board, and then the things like
that was the sick thing that it convinced his friends.
And the way he's a victim, Carol. And
but he kept saying family involved. It was Rodney.
Do you remember Dave?
The family calling bullshit Rodney. Rodney Jones's was Brenda's brother. And the way, you see, him and Laurie, Lee's dad, never got on. That's where all the stories about Lee's dad come from.
Right. Yeah.
But there's other stories going back over for Rodney that will never be mentioned, that would make it look a lot fairer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The girls were not happy at how their grandfather was depicted at all. That he loved them to bits. And they were part of his life until he died. And they had no right to do that. We know they know through their own dad's letters how he didn't get on with them. They know through their aunties and uncles there was friction at home. But you're not just talking about the old boy. You've got Brenda and her life mixed up in it. You've got the old boy. The old boy was a stickler for the truth. You know what I mean? He used to cause countless arguments in the house. You know,
how dare you go on Sean Atwood's and say things about Lee's mother?
They shouldn't have done that. There was no need to bring that up because it wasn't relevant to the Lee Duffy story. It was done in such a way to clickbait.
I know.
And then the inbox, my youngest daughter, who they were told to stay away from, she did. Oh, we're sorry about that. We're going to take it down and take that bit out. What about the rest of it where you're talking salaciously about a father and how he died? Oh, we'll take that bit out.
And
sorry.
He used to say...
And when she gets fooled about it online, it wasn't me, it was him. You know?
How did he know what colour blood and all that? It's insanity.
He's telling people he's seen all autopsy reports and all sorts. Funny how he can get his hands on things the family can't.
It's horrendous, Carol.
No, he's a liar.
I can't believe it. People don't realise to what extent this man is. It's
well, when he was calling Brian's back and wanted to meet him at Steel City, I was buzzing, me. I was buzzing because I lived around the corner from Steel City. I walked around that morning. I was hoping. Well, I knew Brian wouldn't go. You don't sink that low to the likes of him. But I was hoping him and Ed be stood out the front, but they weren't. But I walked around with my dog. Instead of going the other way, I walked the dog that way, and I thought, if he's there, I'm taking this dog home and going to confront them. But they weren't there.
Carol, I went to Redcar. No, when I went to Redcar for a bit, right? Because I needed a break from it all. And I had her messaging me, which I've still got all the messages. Apollo wants to give you £500 if you speak. I don't believe Apollo said that at all. I reckon it was her hoping that I would. But I mean, this is how cheap the thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, where are the morals? And I seen him saying, "Oh, she's left him, torture him, go and get him," and calling themselves Apollo's army.
Can I be honest? I know we're on a live, and I hope it doesn't. I hope you don't tell me off. But I'm surprised you haven't left. And do you know why? Not because of Brian, because of all the trolling and the attention it brings you. I'm surprised it hasn't split your marriage up. I am very surprised. You must have a very strong marriage because a lot of the
It's really,
that's true, though, isn't it?
It's hard work. It's not hard work with Brian because all the injuries and stuff. But it's like I used to go to church a lot. Now I find myself like blocking keywords off the computer because, like, he came out with the thing about Lee's mother. He uses the things that are the worst possible things to happen to anybody, like Brian's brother.
Everybody's got a past. Everybody's got stuff. Who are there to be muckrakers in other people's lives? Who are these people to rake muck over other people's lives?
So he
I tell you
messages
what,
Brian on a night.
we should get together and do an extensive investigation in every aspect of both their lives and have it public.
He messages Brian under his brother that died to count Brian. Why did you kid? Then the two lads who tried to rape me, Jamie knew about it.
Yeah.
He was saying, "Oh, he's asking for if you'll go down with Jim and do a picture with him and all that." It's been horrendous. I haven't let Brian see half of the stuff.
Before any of us up Teesside were involved with anything to do with Jamie Boyle, look at how we behaved with Jill, Brenda and I. Look at the things he was saying about his grave and shitting on it. And this is how this man's head works. When he outed himself in London, when he outed himself in London, that's the Jamie Boyle that you get on the inboxes.
Yeah,
he's going on as if, oh, I had a meltdown, that's not me. That's the Jamie Boyle we know.
Yeah.
That's the Jamie Boyle.
What about
not tucked away? He's mad slipped.
Forward all the proof of him saying he admitted to getting someone to threaten to burn our house down. Simon pulled away from it, and next thing, knowing Simon had gone through abuse as a child, sent him gay rape. I still got everything, Carol. I've kept everything. It's Brian was in hospital. That Voices of Hartlepool video.
And everybody's writing a book on. He uses to threaten others, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He uses it all the time. It's his main thing. Yeah. But when Brian was in hospital, he had put on a page. I hadn't dared tell Brian. It was on Brian's own resurrection page, what he didn't have access to. I've got a team from Hartlepool doing something on Brian to expose him. Yeah. So the next thing, that Voices of Hartlepool came out and said Brian used to put babies in freezers and stuff like that. Then I was getting all the threats. I was like petrified. I was in here on my own. I was thinking, I was scared.
Well, I remember me, you, Brian, and Tony sitting in my room, and Tony from the church, and we were talking about the Doyle, and it was the early days when it all started coming out. And I remember turning to Tony and saying, we all sound mad, don't we? And he sort of smiled. I went, we do sound mad. I said, but it's hard to explain how far these people have gone to get this. People to be like this. They are the extreme. It's like, if you put it in a high ranking order, they're definitely at the top. But number 2 is about 10 miles down. Number 3, an inch below that. Number 4, an inch below that. They're so out of the normal league that you can't even put them in the league.
I never imagined this could happen. I mean, I never posted on social media. If I did, it was always something to do with church and stuff. And it's honestly, it's opened my eyes.
Yeah.
And even on the worst things I've seen with stalking, this, that, and the other, it's like madness because the obsession goes that deep with him. So when I put a video up of Eli talking, next thing he's put one up saying conversations.
People have noticed that actually.
Everything Brian puts up, anything I put up, it's like copy. Carol, it's absolute insanity. You know what else she said as well? She said not only did we get the windows smashed in, this, that, and the other. She said, I'm not saying BT ran down the road. She said also our dog was poisoned at the same time.
Oh, she's...
Wow, you are...
You know, it's like Brian was ill and she was... I don't even... She's a cranker. You know, that fat freak. Oh, and complaining about being body shamed. I body shame her every day. She's a big lump of lad. Carol, she's got the cheek to talk about anyone, and him. He's so in love with himself. I'm surprised he's not married to himself. He's obsessed with himself. And his hair. Fucking hell.
I've got a few.
He is one weird man. But he's keeping himself in the public eye by his behaviour.
Carol, I've got a few belters of his own family. I'm dying to say the Paul Daniels story.
No, keep it for an exposure.
Carol, you know what? I probably will never come out of it because I do feel for the kid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I haven't got it in me to be that vindictive or horrible. And when he was on that video and calling me Miss Piggy and Carol, it was horrendous, you know. Now I've got that Skyline channel with all the trolls saying she's a plus size enabler. Absolutely hideous. I'm thinking, my word, like if my people,
you know where it's coming from. Listen, take them out of YouTube. You're going to get a set amount of trolling of idiots like that lad who said he knew Terry and Palmer. That was it. His name Palmer, wasn't it? Inboxing me saying I was this, that, and I thought, you don't even know me.
Oh, isn't it weird?
All over the Doyle pages, all over that. And like, they don't know you.
I know.
They've spoke to an idiot, you know, and yet they buy the book, but abuse the family.
Yeah, I know.
How mad's that? When you approached me and said you were doing the book, and did I want to speak? And I went, no, about Lee. I haven't spoke about Lee. And then it was a few weeks later I said to you, do you remember when you said about that? And you went, yeah, you can. But I don't want to talk about Lee. But I'd like to put a piece in about the Doyles. And you went, you can say what you want, Carol. And I tell you what, I was so grateful to be able to speak out.
Yeah.
And I was not pressured, and I didn't speak about Lee. People say, oh, you've been in the books about Lee. No, I haven't. I haven't been in any book speaking about Lee.
No, you haven't.
I have been in Brian and Emma's book and brought attention to what the Doyles were doing. Because what we were saying wasn't getting anywhere. Poor Laurie's statement. His own brother's statement went nowhere. That Lee's friends didn't even see it because the Doyles so savvy on YouTube and Facebook that he was swarming it, where our voices were being drowned out. You can't shut me.
When I heard Brian saying all the sides of Lee that you don't hear, or speak more like his nature and right, I thought, wouldn't it just be why isn't anyone brought out Lee's good sides? Do you know what I mean? And that's how we wanted that book to show.
That's not what the pub. Listen, people who don't see, like the Doyle's pages, all these friends are bad off and family are bad off. So them pages are aimed at people outside of Middlesbrough, right, to buy the books. People who don't know Lee, who don't know anything but want to read the story. You see the comments. Oh, I never knew anything. You wrote this. No, because the family keep it tight. So them pages are aimed at people who don't know. So they take every word he says as gospel.
And Carol,
but then I jump on things and say, no, it's not right. And it's like, who are you? Somebody who knows.
How mad are some of the things as well that this? So what about when Craig Howard had Lee's court and Brian ended up taking it off him? And he died, Craig Howard anyway, but Brian had got the court. And then for years, even though Brian was in the midst of addiction and all that, that court was kept in the same place.
It could have been any court, Emma. As soon as I seen that lining.
And he kept that court.
As soon as I seen the lining, I knew it was Lee's. It wasn't the outside the court. It was the inside. Because my favourite colour is emerald green and it's embossed. And the one thing I remember about that court, I went, oh, what a lovely lining.
Yeah.
My favourite colour, and it was a beautiful lining in it.
And
when you give it in the bag, it was folded inside out. So the first thing I seen was the lining. Brought memories back. Back in an instant. And how Michelle slipped in it straight away, and she has his flying jacket and that coat now.
Carol,
we've got two papers here.
It went to where it was meant to be, didn't it?
Yes.
Unreal.
It brought a lot of comfort to Michelle. That it did. She was struggling very much at the time. Michelle, out of the three daughters, she really suffered. You can tell. And the fact they played her, they took advantage of it, really, really pisses me off. Even once when they would talk, she used to be on Facebook and they'd jump on her, in the early hours. And they start talking to her on her inbox. Knowing she was a vulnerable person.
What about Terry's son? Grooming them.
Eh?
What about Terry's son? When Terry had fallen out with them, they'd seen him on the live saying F off to his dad. He was in some care or whatever, and Terry hadn't spoke to him through a reason. It was like a normal reason. And
yeah, family show.
They got onto it because they're constantly watching lives and stuff, and they started saying, "Oh, we know what your dad is, and we're here for you," and all that. Anybody else doing that, Carol? It's grooming.
Didn't they use Marty's phone and take his phone book and contact his elderly sister and that?
But what did they do? Do you know all the pages they've got as well? Them pages are like dangerous because it's like Brian got all the followers to the page anyway because it was Brian's name. Obviously, it wasn't Jamie's.
Yeah.
But then they take control of the pages. That's how they do it. So
pretending to be. Well, that's why I said to you, can we read out their reply? Because it was made to sound as if it was off Terry, and it wasn't. It was their reply to Laurie's statement, which was a fucking insult, to be honest.
No.
And then it's them pages. It's like other stuff to do with them. What was it? Like, yeah. Oh, when all that was going on, and Peter went, they were talking on the Laughter, Main and Madness page as if it was Terry Dicko. We're going to this. In other words, we're going to write another book, and because there's been arguing, we're going to tell all about Carol. You know what I mean? I know stuff about her. It wasn't Terry talking. It was them pretending we know stuff about her. She's going to get both barrels in the next book. Yeah.
Another disturbing thing. What about turning up at young girls' houses? Knowing people?
Yeah, went looking for our Peter. Well, this is what I'm going to tell you about that page and how Peter went on. And he thought he was arguing with Terry. Yeah. So he's like, fuck off, Terry. He said, you're a fucking torture. She's contacted Shirley Boyle in the early hours of the morning. And he went, no, it wasn't our mum. It was our Sammy Joe on our mum's account. You've been told this 10 times. And you still keep saying the same fucking thing. And pretending to be Terry. You want to shut your mouth. I know where you are down South Bank. As if it's Terry, and it isn't Terry. He didn't have access to the page, so it's them.
Yeah.
I know lots of people down South Bank and all this stuff. Peter didn't even live in South Bank at the time. We'll get this sorted. Not as if it was Terry. My sons will sort you out. 2 weeks later, we found out it's not Terry. It's them pretending to be Terry.
Yeah, because I got in touch with you. I said he didn't even know to set a Facebook up, didn't he? And he didn't have a clue. And he honestly
didn't. Terry, you can't even work his phone.
Same day, Terry did a spontaneous live.
Yeah.
Remember, Carol? And Terry said, "You're threatening to send people to my house." He said, and he said his address, and he did say their address. He didn't deny it. And then she's now blaming Brian for putting addresses out and stuff like that. It's insanity.
They don't have to complain when anything happens to them, but they like to dish it out. I hope they're listening tonight. I hope you are, Shirley Boyle. You're fat-free and you're crank of a husband. Ooh, how the fuck does she cram in bed with that weirdo? Nobody does. He's a weirdo. He is a weirdo. Really weird. And he is. Both of them are cranks.
It's beyond belief. Beyond belief.
Yeah, when I go on contradicting her, I went on and called her, what was it, the other week? Oh, here she is, Shirley Boyle, the alternative comedian. And she won't answer me, but if she did, she'd get both barrels. She knows she will, because I don't give a fuck about her. She thinks she's smart with her mouth. She got me out now. Should have left me alone. The worst thing they did was press my buttons. They should have left me alone. They should have, because then I would have still been quiet. But no, they couldn't do it. So you forced me out. You open Pandora's box. It's not going to be pretty for yous.
No.
I'm not happy at speaking out publicly. I'd rather keep all this to myself. But if it's going to put yous down, you're going back where you belong, in the gutter.
Yeah.
That's where they belong, in the gutter.
I like Brian's addressed certain things, but I mean, people don't see what actually goes on for him to
listen. I've always said about you help people online, but what people don't see is all the work that goes offline. Now, I didn't know you when Lee was around. I can only speak as I find, and what I've seen and what I witness, I don't know how people can criticise you. Because even though the both past, you come out and you do something for people. You listen to people. You're there for people. The stuff you do offline You want an award for it.
Oh, bless
You
you.
want an award, and you don't even ask for credit. You don't even want credit, and you do it all, and they just don't care. What do they do? Jamie, but I do for charity, mate. You won't even tell us how much you give charity if you're not paying people for the books. You're not paying fucking charities thousands of pounds.
I know.
Mm.
Harriel, what do you mean, Terry Dicko with question mark? I don't know what you mean.
Is he on about, because I've just been talking about when the
I said
Laughter
Terry
Man and Madness page,
said the address.
when they're saying it's Terry speaking on there, it's not Terry, it's them. Terry did not run that page. Terry did not put comments on that page. But on the Laughter Man and Madness, if you looked back then, I don't know if it's down now, I don't look anymore. It's it was always as if Terry was speaking, if Terry was saying this and Terry was saying that. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
He didn't even have access to the page.
Yeah, I
They
know.
done it again, didn't they?
With Dave Thomas when he threatened Dave Thomas on Brian's. Crazy, you know.
Dave Thomas, good mate of Lee's. Who the fuck are they that have threatened any of Lee's mates?
I don't know.
And it's always, if you touch us, warn the police. If you do, I've got my tape recorder. What a weirdo freak he is.
Insanity,
What
Carol.
authors go on like this? What authors do
Honestly,
you know behave in such a fashion?
it can wear you down, and it's what the worrying thing is as well. It's the army of people that have been all over day one.
I don't think he has an army of people. I think he has an army of fake accounts. But I don't think he has an army of people.
That goes without saying. No, there is quite a few.
Well, that day she was on my inbox and he was on his thing whipping it up. He actually had the cheek to say on that page that day. Now he removed everything, but it was on that page that day. It's the busiest day we've had on here. Yeah, because you're pressing people buttons, and the likes on his pages were, hundreds and that. Now there's no activity, and I mentioned it a few months ago. There's not much movement on your page. We don't do things for likes. Well, you changed that from when you were harassing me, because when I was arguing with her, I put something on public. Now, my Facebook is locked down, totally locked down to very trusted people. So I don't have a lot of people on. And a few of my friends were putting likes on. Oh, she's only got 3 likes. We've got 28. And I was like, you've changed your mind. They changed the stance. 1 minute, it's like they're going on about how many likes they're getting. Then the next thing is, oh, well, it's not relevant. We're not getting likes. His pages are virtually inactive. The only people who are putting likes on and things like that and putting in other fake accounts, the same names over and over.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Over and over. Yeah, and I don't know how he managed to con Paddy Maloney. I really don't. Paddy, I know Paddy. I didn't think he'd fall for that idiot. But he is an idiot. He's harassed the family. You see, they like deal with him, knowing what he does. Knowing what he does.
Power said he's that good at integrating himself and playing victim, and it's like being hundreds of miles away, and his young children were in house on BC.
Never take personal responsibility. They never apologise. They never own anything. They don't. Another characteristic. He ticks every box of a narcissist, and she's his enabler. She loves herself. She's so far up with, oh, I'm important. Me, I'm a legal secretary. No, you're not. You're just an idiot who thinks that. You see, she does it from a distance. Stand in front of someone and tell them to the face, you haven't got the courage, pet.
I know.
You haven't got the courage.
I know. It's
you haven't got the courage.
Insanity.
I don't have to start going through town. She knows.
Epilogues and I'm thinking.
What's the chat like? Is everything all right in the chat? Can't see the chat. You see.
Pollyanna Arts, lovely to see you. I was just trying to take your message there. Lovely for you to drop by. You've just come in. If you're wondering what's going on, Carol's a really good, my best friend, and she's also the mother of Lee Duffy's children and was like Lee's wife for many years. And we're just saying about the trolling that Brian has suffered at the hands of the author who, long before
What happened is
long before we
one
went
of our
through it.
one of
Carol,
our usually sorry one of
Carol,
our usual
yeah.
conversations we discuss, me and you, that we talk how we talk on our phones. We've actually brought onto the live.
I know it
So
was
instead of it being a
unplanned.
private conversation, we brought it into public tonight for New Year.
Yeah, definitely. And it's
But
the
we
first
thought,
time
let's
Carol spoke out. It's happened, but Carol suffered what we're going through long
Oh
before,
yeah.
and that was she was the mother of Lee's children, and that was all to do with this book. And because she didn't want to cooperate, Lee's brother didn't have nothing to do with it. Told him no uncertain terms. We don't agree with any of it, and they fooled everybody by saying the family were on board. And then we've just been saying about how many other people, because it seemed like to always mention Brian made a police statement, and they forget to mention that it was a counter charge. And also, not only Brian and myself, there was Dale Brendan Hyde, there was Carol, there was Terry Dixon, there was many, many others. But it's just this hatred campaign trying to put Brian in this bad light and stuff. It's absolute insanity. But I said to Dale Brendan Hyde the other day, I said, when does it stop, Dale? And he said, mine went on for 3 years. He said, and it's crazy. You can't believe to what extent. And they go on like all sweet and sweet and this, that, and the other.
It's only the others involved, other people who are involved who've had similar experiences, that we look at each other and say, we're not mad, are we? We're not mad. This isn't, because it does sound crazy.
I know.
It got to the point in this house, it was like, I'm sick of hearing their fucking name. How dare they intrude into my life like this and start getting bad?
Crazy, isn't it, Carol?
Right?
You can't grasp it until it's mad. You can't grasp it. Like you help us.
Well, that's why I said what I did in the book, trying to explain as short and concise as possible that these people were offensive, not just the news, not just the news. You can't. Do you know, you go to describe them, I find myself like, I go to describe them, and no matter what words I search for, and I've got an extensive vocabulary, I can't find the one that depicts them strongly enough. It's like, oh, they're a nuisance, that's not strong enough. Or the trouble cause, that's not strong enough. Even fucking assholes isn't strong enough. You've got to sort of take it to the extreme. But unless you've been subjected to it, you do look a little mad when I found myself ranting on, but it's sort of, you have to keep checking yourself because you feel like you're getting your strings pulled with them, don't you, all the time? You feel like they're saying things to provoke reactions, but if you don't react, it's like that stupid one where they do all them stupid things about Brian dubbing over his voice. It's just, they get worse and worse and worse as they're going on. It's like, how low can you sink? We're getting views. Yeah, because probably 90% of the people who are viewing it are bloody idiots. The other 10% are saying, are you mad? Are you daft? Is this a joke? But his vendetta against Brian is there for everyone to see. Everyone to see.
Really scary. It's
for nobody.
It's like
for
an
nobody.
Stalking obsession.
Yeah.
I think he's got the same type of obsession with Lee.
I think that's how he obtains his material. That's how he gets his material, through provoking people and pressing buttons or putting one. Have you noticed? People, there's a lot of egos. There's a lot of hard men. All of them have egos. And before they come along, some people didn't like other people, but there was a modicum of respect. There was no outright slagging off and that. But once the Doyles come on the scene, they were setting different factions up against each other. You could see it.
Yeah, definitely.
Setting them up, and then the nastiness had come. So they were sort of manipulating situations, and then, oh, I'm your friend, but they're not. I'll tell you something they said behind your back, and stirring it and causing bad feeling. Now, there was none of that before the Doyles come on the scene. None of that.
I've never known or experienced anything like it. You can't.
No. It deserves a book.
Yeah,
there could be a book written about this because it's so.
Definitely.
It's so outrageous.
The only way you could do it is all the thousands and thousands of screenshots I've got in many phones. Is you'd have to like add it all, and you can see the pattern, can't you? And then you look at Dale's stuff, same pattern, Simon's stuff, and it's just never ending. I think.
You know, when you said, you know, a bloke who knows about I would love someone who knows about computers to uncover the fucking lot and just show everybody this is how many accounts, this is this, this is that, and just to show the extent, because we know the extent.
Mm-hmm.
We know the extent these people go to, but proving it's another thing. You can, the screenshots and get people, but it's so long and laborious, it's going to take a computer tech who's got time and the savvy to hound these people and expose them.
Well, there's a few people got in touch, because obviously Brian still knows people and stuff. And John Elite was telling him about something he was going through, and his mates actually found out within minutes of the address, and they turned up at the door. And when John was on the phone to the one who'd been following him, he said, "Your doorbell's going to ring in a minute." You went, "Oh yeah, whatever, blah blah blah." And then he said, the doorbell rang, and he absolutely that just went to pieces. But there's a few people that ran certain programs, and I've had it verified. I've had quite a few things verified that you won't believe. And a lad put on a comment today, some other lad who I don't even know, and I said I wouldn't mind having a chat with you, has put on, when he started looking into it, his eyes were opened at how many and how bad it was.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the point is, it just takes one proper person who knows, you know, computer savvy to expose it and say, there, the facts. Because all these screenshots and all this aren't helping. The sort of, they try and make them sound as if they're out of context. They've got an answer for everything. They're very devious and manipulative. And to be honest, to deal with them, you have to go down to their level, and you don't want to. You know what I mean? But they should be exposed. I thought there would have been. That, especially after what happened in London, I thought he'd never show his face on Facebook or YouTube again.
Carol,
Because I don't know if you've seen half of my comments after it. I'm just all over everything going, he did it to himself. He done it to himself. I was so pleased he did it to himself. I thought, that's him gone now. No, the arrogance of the man. The arrogance of the man, he's back.
To be in recovery. And hold on a minute.
Well, it's not been 100 days since London, has it?
I know. And it's scary when the amount of people that do contact you that you've got no connection with, and they say, "Oh, it's happened to us, it's happened to us." So what about the dog walker, Carol?
Yeah.
You know, the dog walker. That was another outburst, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, it seems that Paul Venice is his latest one to say, you know, he'll come with me, he's me backup. It was Brian before, and then it was others, you know.
He doesn't know half of the stuff.
Paul doesn't want to know half, because Paul doesn't want to know. If Paul had wanted to listen, he'd have listened. Paul doesn't want to listen. He didn't listen to the family. Why would he listen to any of the others? Paul, he's taking Paul somewhere. He's getting Paul this. He's getting Paul that. Paul's going to kiss ass till he gets what he wants, isn't he? Paul knows. He knows what he's doing. It's too public. I've told him. He knows his own family are trolls.
Spot on.
His own family. When he was going to go up with the, I'm going to put Brian's statement up, and we're going to show you the trolling Brian's been doing. And I'm going on Venice's channel to do it. And that's when I popped up on my page and said, put all our statements up. And while you're at it, if you want to talk about trolling, let's talk about Paul Venice's relative trolling me and the apology he gave me. You know, he might have removed his comments quite quickly after our conversation, but I did get the screenshots. So we want to talk about trolling, Brian being a troll. We'll talk about Jamie Boyle being a troll. And we'll talk about your family member who is a troll, who trolled me, but you won't hand over the name. So if you won't give you the name, then you condone trolling. Obviously, that podcast didn't go ahead. But first it was, we're going to show Brian's statement, we're going to out Brian as a troll.
He got Decker Eggy, we're going to expose his bully, this, that, and the other, and then, just absolute crazy stuff, Carol. It was like insane. The amount of trouble he tried to cause with Richie Horsley, who Brian's known for years, different people, absolute the way he uses people, manipulates people.
He puts one up against the other. Yeah.
Honestly, I've never known nothing like it. As for 12
I don't know Richie Horsley. I've seen him once at Lee's grave in 2008. He'd laid, and I only know it was him because he laid flowers and his name were on him. So he walked away, so he walked up. But I don't know Richie Horsley. I'd heard of him, obviously, but I've only ever seen him once. But I did see him pay his respects at Lee's grave. I think it was 2008, the memoriam 2008. But personally, I don't know the man.
Cool. But I do know one thing, that 12-step program is a total different program to what.
Well, he can't be on it. He can't be doing the 12 steps with Senga, can he?
Someone said
he keeps Senga helping him through the 12 steps and getting him on the road to recovery. Well, where's all the putting things right with people?
Well, somebody said to her the other day, if he's doing the steps, how come he's got to make amends? He'll have to apologise to Brian and stuff. No, he won't.
Why won't he?
He can't get free then, because even if you don't want to apologise, you've got to apologise.
You've got to put right along. You've got to acknowledge. You have to take accountability. So that's acknowledging what you've done wrong. Now, he can't say we've been justified or all this behaviour towards us. He can't even possibly, in his pea brain, think he can justify the behaviour towards his family.
No.
Yeah.
And you're the mother of Lee Duffy. Yeah. You lived the Lee Duffy story, and he's telling. It's just insanity, Carl. Honestly, it's absolute insane.
Well, yeah, but they're in the know. They're the authorities, aren't they? You know what I mean?
It is crazy. It's unreal. What about
when he was saying in the early days, I've seen Lee Duffy's writing, and it's like italic. I thought, I want to see some letters here. No, not seeing nothing. He makes a lot of promises, doesn't he, that Doyle and we're going to do this, and then they fizzle out and they don't happen. You know, like we're going to do exposures on this, but hang on, we'll expose you if you do that. You know, the hypocrisy of saying, I'm going to go on Venner's channel and expose Brian as a police informer and a troll, when, hang on a minute, there was other people went to the police as well. That's not police informing. That's saying you're a pain in the ass that much. And that many people are so sick of you. They're actually trying to do something legally. And then on top of that, going on about trolling. The hypocrisy of it all. But it never went ahead, did it? Well, he couldn't do it after that. Because if they hadn't brought it up, I'd have put it all over my page. But it's always Brian made a statement. I made a statement. Come on, get them up. Get them all up. Because you won't like what I've had to say. Yeah.
And you know what? It's like when it goes to a level like this, you get to know how these trolls write. You get to know how to say
them. They can't hide it. Look at that time on your page. Look at your post that time he was on. And it was Elton Musk.
Oh, can someone get Emma help? Because she's Brian.
Yeah. And it was like, I'm arguing with him. When he said to me, you're just one of many, this, that, and the other, I was taking the piss out of him, wasn't I? I laughed. I was like laughing back at him. And he said something like, oh, from our investigations, we found this, that, and the other out. And I was like, our investigations. I said, and you're saying you're not Shirley and Jamie Boyle. You know what I mean? They contradict themselves, they forget where they're talking. They do. There's that much going on with them. They're tripping themselves up. I'm sure somebody said once, not that long ago, they had evidence of them being on certain sites, and they had proof that they were using fake accounts and all that. But then the proof didn't come up. But then again,
well,
Christmas has been here. I haven't been online much lately because I've been busy with my own life, because I have a life and family stuff. So I haven't been. It's only if a friend will send me an inbox and say, "Have you seen this?" And I don't go searching for it. But when it gets a bit outrageous, my friends will say, "Seen this?" I'll say, "Right, I'll deal with that later." You know, Shirley Boyle. Oh, my husband. Really, shut up, Shirley. Shut up with your garbage. You know, we're sick of hearing about your insides and how ill you are. You know.
When she said,
I've never known anybody get cancer and get cured that quick. Like, never known anybody get cured that quick.
What about when she said, like, more or less, it was like became a competition who had the worst operation ever, right?
Yeah. Well, it was like, I need sympathy. My poor wife. Well, then what you causing all the fucking shit for? And it's going back to your
it first came out and we said, look, we don't wish anybody any harm. We'd never wish that on anyone. Yeah. And we'd like to just say we did it live publicly.
Yeah, I remember it.
The statement came on next day. How dare you offer my wife?
What? He's a good Christian. This good Christian man knocking back an apology. He's a Christian. That's all you heard out about them. All the time. That's all Laurie heard. But we're Christians. We're only looking for the truth. We don't want to hurt nobody. We don't want to upset nobody. Fucking hell, your intentions went out the window after about 4 or 5 days when you realised you weren't getting cooperation. And do you know what? It's like, they go on like, you should be grateful we're giving you publicity.
Carol, it makes you wonder that a park attendant or whatever it was can suddenly become like an author like that. And it all fits in when you think of the main cop who was in charge of the investigation, sharing stuff with him. Then him doing a book. A copper's not just going to let Jamie do a book.
No. Why would an ex-copper like him use a two-bit pea-brain? He must know his criminal record.
And then, Carol,
he must know he's a flipping idiot and a junkie. Is he that daft of a copper? You know, he's a copper. He's been in charge of murder investigations.
So you know that he's Carol. You know he's handler. And then you start to think to yourself, hold on a minute, he's integrating himself in and out of all these people. Yeah. Like, for what reason? Taping his tape. Yeah. You know what I mean? It makes you wonder a lot, doesn't it?
Well, the fact that he's dealing with people in the criminal underworld and dealing with coppers at the same time is a bit dodgy. And let's be honest, he can't be trusted. He can't be trusted. He's done it. He's out. Even when, he was on that thing, that London thing, and he was talking about Paul Venice, wasn't he? And Paul's. I know Paul told me not to say this, but I'm gonna say it. He said that a few times, didn't he? So, like, even the advice he's getting off people around him, they're going, "Oh, stick that! I don't want to do that now." You know what I mean? Oh, he told me not to do anything and say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You know, if you can't listen to the people around you.
7 manic videos, absolute insanity.
And I tell you what, you notice which ones were getting shared. I noticed one had got shared, and they took all the spacker bits out of it. And I thought, the can of it runs. I even watched it through twice. I thought, hang on. What, his meltdown. No, he recorded his own meltdown, right? With a spacker this, spacker that. But then he re-recorded his meltdown, not using as many spacker words. Because it wasn't edited, the one I watched. It was another. The first video you watched was him and his fucking meltdown. The second video you watched was a more controlled and less of the spacker thing. Well, so hang on, you've done your meltdown on. You're just an idiot.
And I only noticed when someone pointed it out. The abuse that he actually gave me at the end of that video as well. The names were horrendous, weren't they? Like insanity.
Yeah.
And then he's really lost the plot, and this, that, and the other, and all these people like giving all the rubbish, and Sean out thinking that we believed it and things like that. Hold on a minute.
Looks a bit strange, that Sean Atwood. Like he's nah.
Mental.
Strange people with YouTube. It is mental. I didn't think it'd be like that. Well, to be honest, I'd never been on YouTube till the Doyles, was it? It was only because I was on Facebook, but not like public. It was my friends, and local people. And it was only when it had blew up with them and they were putting stuff on YouTube that the first time I actually went on YouTube to see what was going on. Because it wasn't my thing. I couldn't even do, when they would start torturing me, I didn't know how my phone done screenshots.
I'm trying to think
my phone, the button marked idiot, answer it, you know what I mean? I'm not computer savvy. Well, and it was like, how do I screenshot this? Well, I couldn't even screenshot.
Another thing, there's a lad called PD. Do you remember that Can't Beat the Weed channel? Right?
Oh, that weirdo who's off his nose.
Do you remember when it all started on there about Brian, this, that, and the other? And then PD.
And then I went on, didn't I?
But PD, hold on 2 minutes. And then PD came on somewhere and put, Jamie, I have witnessed you trying to gather people to go against Brian on Can't Beat the Weed channel some time ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people do know, and there's a lot of people that are seeing it.
That weed channel that me and Peter flipped out. Oh, Peter had gone on and they started abusing him, and I went on and went ballistic. And then the weed bloke was like, they're all taken off. I went, well, you've got him on your fucking channel.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's all clickbait, Emma. You know what I mean? It's like, I think Jamie Boyle wants to be Brian. He's so desperate, It's like, he wants a reputation.
I think that he's wanted to be Lee Duffy. He wants to be Paul.
Yeah, he wants to be all these people. He can't, listen, they earned that right. They done all the fights to get where they were, and they paid for it. Jamie Boyle just wants it handed to him because he's one of them wannabe. He's a gangster groupie, really. He is a gangster groupie. He's a bigger groupie than a guy. Well, look what he done, handing personal phone numbers over. When my daughter was in hospital, giving a phone number to the Evening Gazette. That was shocking, man. When she was ill. Nah, give a phone number to the Evening Gazette, and having them phoning her up when she was in hospital. The hospital that intervened. Yeah. No, listen, this is only, Emma, it's only the tip of the iceberg. It's only the tip of the iceberg. I don't want to talk about family stuff on YouTube. It's our business. We have the right to a private life, but not with these people. No. Who would do that? Who would do that?
Well,
like people in school. Yeah.
And then
I don't
always, Brian's putting our son at risk. Our son had to go to bed with a knife. Tage put the address out. Now it's Brian putting the address out. Oh, it's just, it's like both as mad as each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. They just want to cause as much controversy. But it keeps their names current, you see. Us talking about them keeps them current. But if I've got to talk about them, every word's going to be negative because that's how they've treated us. Listen, you don't have silence for 29 years and then all of a sudden decide, oh, I want to be public on YouTube and Facebook. That wasn't the case. You robbed us of our privacy and you forced me out. You opened Pandora's box thinking you're going to be, quid's in. Well, you open Pandora's box and I'm going to shove it so far up his arsehole and a muffler that it's going to hurt. Because every time you turn around, there's going to be me and my gob. Like every time we try to do something, it was you and your gobs. You're going to be sorry the day you ever started my family because you're going to be sick of me. You're going to be sick of me. You open Pandora's box, I'll shove it right where the sun don't shine.
It's awful.
No, well, they started it. I'll finish it. Gone out to lose now. You took my privacy. You took what I was trying to protect my children for. You attacked my children. And it was an attack. You're pressing the buttons on something extremely painful to them to get a reaction. That's how he gets his information.
Yeah.
That's how he gets his information.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's
But the
like
kids can't understand how people who normally allowed it to get this bad and nobody was saying anything. It was like, oh, we're going to be in the books. You know, well, thanks a lot. And I'm sure Lea'd have thanked you profusely.
Well, it shows you
for,
with Stewie
standing
Armstrong.
by and watching what's happened.
But Stewie
Listen, I've
Armstrong.
been my kids in floods of tears. I've been in floods of tears myself with these people. And I'm not frightened to admit it. But for every tear I've cried, they're going to pay for it. They're going to pay for it.
Carol, Stewie Armstrong was another fine example who was told that you're all on board and stuff.
Yeah.
Straight away, he put that statement out and he said, like, worst prolific trolling.
Well, like I say, he was the second one.
How can all these people be wrong, Carol?
Yeah, well, Dell Lovell, GGM. Give a shout to GGM. Best gangland thing on Facebook.
Yeah.
Good lad, Dell. He's married to one of the relatives of the Craze. And I told him what was going on. And he went, really? And I showed him the screenshot. And you know, it was the first one he turned around and said, we're not going to promote his books. And he never did. And I tell you, I gave him 2 letters, Elise, in grateful thanks. Nothing salacious in them, but just to say, thank you so much. Not just for believing us, but for doing something constructive. And I'll never forget it. I always give Dell a shout out, and I'll always shout for his page and that, because he did. You know what I mean? I didn't know him personally. I presented him with the evidence, and he behaved like a thoroughly decent human being. And I'll always be grateful, the same as I will to Stu Armstrong. They behave like decent human beings. And that's all we asked. That's all we asked. Please have a bit of understanding here. You know, my children might have grown up, but I've got grandchildren here. And then they complain about their son. I actually said last week on Summit, where she was on complaining about her son, I don't give a rat's ass about your son. My grandchildren had to go to school after your husband out of private family business. Now that's something to walk into school to.
I forgot about when me and Brian had to go to the police station and be interviewed.
Yeah.
We had, she'd come out with the malicious communications and that.
And then he could hardly walk, he couldn't even put his shoes on at the time.
She said somebody rang her and said that Brian had been asking people if they'd put the windows through. So I'm starting to think, do you know, this window putting through business, was it part of like some kind of insurance job or something like that? You just don't know.
Listen, when you see their behaviour and the extent they go to, they're quite capable of doing that to themselves, just to say, oh, I'm a victim. Did he need a new car? Did she need a new car? Had the engine gone and the block gone? Oh, we'll just smash it up.
Well,
you know, like some people do insurance jobs on cars.
Carol, I think the words were a flammable liquid was poured all over while me and my son were in the house alone.
Really?
Wow.
If you'd been outside,
the dog got poisoned. Instigating that the dog had been poisoned. Brian Cockerill definitely got it all sorted, and I'm thinking, hold on a minute, there's that many enemies of
I said that many times. Right, but he goes on and on and on all the time as if he's a victim. He does it. It's like constant. No, not nice people. It's an understatement, that. Absolute understatement to say that about them. They're absolutely ridiculous.
You're right, Ariel. And you know what? This wasn't planned, and I think it's all meant to come out.
You know me. I speak out for you. I say what I mean, and I'm taking nothing back. I take nothing back, because what I say is a spade's a spade.
And I used to say, Brian, don't retaliate. And Christian, this, that, and the other. And he says, if you'd have just let me shout at him like I was in the beginning, like it would have put a stop. And he said, now he's going a step further and step further. And I went,
they can't stop themselves. Yeah, but they made sure they don't answer me and they don't attack me. Isn't it funny how they're still on it, Brian? But the other people who went, they're not mentioning them, are they?
Well, Terry said to us the other day, he said, as soon as I say anything about him, he said he automatically attacks you to Brian.
Yeah.
The things that get said, and it's always like now he's getting dead brave. It's always like the don't sue us, Brian, all that carry on, like he used to put on Facebook and stuff. He's even added them at the end of the messages. So then she came out with Brian has said whatever about my son, about this, that, and the other. No, Brian was quite clever. What he did, he said, "Watch." So every fake account that we knew was him, right? Brian would say, blah blah blah, only with truths and facts about him, right? Straight away, they would take it down. Now, when she was saying Brian had said this about her son, this, that, and the other, they could never produce anything that Brian has directly spoke to any of those. Brian has spoke to false accounts with fake names, which we knew was them, right? But if they're going to ever produce anything Brian said, I want to see before it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like the Doyle, he goes on, he's always saying, I've got 3 children. Right, doesn't he? He hasn't. He's got 1 kid to wear, and they're her 2, grew up, aren't they? And she got 2 grown-up ones, she's got 1 to him. Is that right? Right. Oh, but he comes into our family, Peter's irrelevant, Michael Kell's up. You know what I mean? Oh, you're not a blood relative, you. You know.
What about turning up at that young girl's house, knowing your Pete weren't there?
Peter's ex-girlfriend.
Weird, that, really weird.
Peter's ex trying to track him down. He wanted to fight him. He was online saying he's getting the police. You know, he gets people behind him, and then he gets full of tablets, and he thinks he's fucking E-man. He does, but he went round looking at people's. What it was Peter's ex, but she'd moved out, and he knocked the new tenants up who told Peter. They went, the Doyle come looking for you at the house. He went, you are? He went, yeah, because Catherine used to live there. But yeah, go looking for people. He's dead brave when he's got people behind him. You hear him. Oh, and I've got to go down to Brian and Ven will come with me, or like you did to Dave Thomas. Brian's coming down. He uses everybody's names.
Brian shit himself when he was phoned 10 times, and he's dead.
Oh, well, hang on. It's not a mission of trolling someone. Who's the Doyle, local or Venice, to ring someone 10 times repeatedly? But that's trolling someone.
Like all in Boyle's like mad mind. Like,
well, you're not going to answer the phone that's ringing you 10 times, are you? You're just going to ignore it. He's not answering. Nobody in the right mind would. Only you, dirty Doyle. Ooh. It's smart.
You hope that it's going to end or stop or whatever. But I know in my heart of hearts that he will never, ever stop.
He'd have to be in a box before he stopped. All the thing. If they were in a road crash and both of them died, half a fucking YouTube would shut down, man. Well, I heard him say once about, I'm not on Twitter or any of them, but one of them platforms, I've got so many accounts on it. Why do you need all them accounts? 1 account? Aren't you only supposed to have 1? No. See, mate, 1 account, 1 name, 1 gob. That's all you get off me. And it's consistent. I'll say the same things. Not like them. Even when you contacted their page, it was like you didn't know who you were talking to. When they're putting statements out, you don't know. You're thinking they were off Brian or they're off Terry, and they're not, it's off them. They replied to Laurie's statement. It's absolutely shameful.
Yeah, it's like...
We don't think what he has to say is just to his own brother. You don't think that's how arrogant. That's how flaming arrogant you are. Yeah. And we give money to charity. You haven't paid people for the books. She was on Del Lovell's site once. He won't promote the books, but she'd been on it. It was just about the time that decision was made. And I kept saying, so how much for charity? Thousands. Well, go on, give us a figure. We've raised thousands. Where's these thousands of pounds they're saying they raised? I know they raised money on the Lee Duffy book, and somebody doubled it, but you were only talking a couple £100. We've raised money, and it was a couple £100. £200. Most of the lads in this town would spend that on cocaine and drink on a weekend out. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
Oh, we've raised it for charity. You know, the boyos in the town, down the Dickens, they spend more than that in the weekend on the Charlie and the drink. Oh, hundreds of pounds for charity. Shut up. Probably 10 pence. Probably 10 pence. You can donate 10 pence. You've still made a donation to charity, have you? But they will not disclose the amount. Not disclose it. We can't, can we?
It's very creepy.
Well, I hope now these cases have been decided that the tax people are onto them. The tax people. Because she'll be claiming tax credits on her 16 hours at the Citizens' Advice. He'll be saying, I only get this pittance off the books, they're not bestsellers. And selling them all, because he's printing his own books, licensed to print money there, isn't it? Printing his own books, no proof, no invoices, not even a proper company. He's supposed to be Rob Brenton's cleaner, isn't he? Oh,
and
it's
that's
crazy.
a weird situation, isn't it? The publisher.
Yeah.
He's
But
obsessed.
people want to be on it.
He's obsessed with Sir Dennis of Flintshire, who was no better than Jimmy Savile. Really, really bad.
Yeah.
That picture of him is on the back of all the books, and the publisher actually uses Sir Dennis of Flintshire as an email address. So it's all weird, like behaviour.
Yeah. I know after we'd gone to the police, they don't attack me, but I got a few months of sick gay porn. And I've never had that in my inboxes before. But instead of just blocking it, I used to report the account and then block it so that I'd have to keep making new accounts up. And I think after a while I got sick of it.
What about when it came here for Terry and all?
And it's like the weirdest flipping animals and things like that. And it's like, there's only one person I know sick enough to be sending that to my inboxes.
What about
when
Terry was writing letters? And that's why they sent the police round here, and we said, "You're having a laugh. You've come here, Terry, for a letter."
That's what I mean. They run for him, don't they?
You understand what's going on, and that's when obviously we.
Is that when I was on the phone when they turned up? When me and you were talking.
Said,
yeah, me and you were talking. Knock at the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "You put me on loudspeaker with this cover."
And Terry said, "I want to put it in." Now, Cleveland police said it was in like. There was loads of insanity things like proof for Simon Ambler off a unique message ID account number of the authors saying I've already had 2 people threaten to burn the house down. We had the recording to the bloke saying he was going to burn the house down, giving Brian's address out and blah blah. And when Simon heard that it wasn't a joke, because he thought it was a joke at first, I'll get in touch with Brian asking for a fight. When he realised, he said, "What, you had someone do that on the phone?" He said, "Look, I don't want to be involved." Straight away, gay rape porn sent to him.
Yeah. It's sickening. Yeah, we've done it again. How long have you had me on here, you little cow? How long have you had me? We do on the phone. First time I've done a live like this, like.
Carol, I'm shocked.
First time I've ever done this.
I know. I only got you on it because of the party.
It was the end of the night. I was just going to go to bed, and I thought I'll wait up till midnight, say good night to the kids, because they've been having a time downstairs. And I've been fighting to keep my eyes open. Well, I'm in the wide awake club now, Pet.
We've been on 5 hours.
We've done what we do on the phone when we chat to each other. We're on for hours, but we forgot we're on live. I still say the same things to you in private as I do in live.
I know.
But, yeah.
It's the first time I spoke out. But we'll end the live now, and
it's been a lovely evening.
It's been
I'm sorry I didn't catch early. I missed all that with Brian and everybody else. I said hi as soon as I came on.
I wouldn't know what we're going to do.
But I was rather busy.
Brian will be like that, won't he? He won't know what's going on. He'll put the live on.
He'll say, "Are they still at it again?" You still talking to that, Carol?
That's hilarious.
Well,
I love you more than anything, and thank you so much for coming on.
Bless you. Well, next time I'll put my face on and show me.
It's about time. We need to put the world to rights more.
I'll put my rollers in that all for tomorrow.
So we need to put the world to rights more often, don't we?
God bless my lovely. I love you to bits.
Love you too.
Say good night. God bless to Brian.
I will.
Good night, Jack. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope we haven't done your head in. And I'm sorry
thank
about
you.
the swearing, but as soon as the Doyles get mentioned, I get a bit of a potty mouth.
It's just
I do.
it's because we don't know how to deal with it, Carol, because we've never
You
experienced
know what it is? My kids and grandkids don't hear me swear unless that man's name's mentioned. They went, Grandma, why do you always swear when you're on about them? And I'm like, look, it's not allowed, but that's the exception. Bless them. Good night, God bless my lovely. Good night, chat.
Right,
Hope you
bye.
have a nice new year. Bye.
Right, bye.